Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight's guests, that's in plural, we have Penelope Jean Hayes and Carole Serene Borgens. Penelope is the author of the book we're going to talk about tonight, Due Unto Earth, It's Not Too Late. Let's hope it's not too late. Also, the book, The Likely Futures, 2 volumes of spiritual advice on the coronavirus pandemic. And a lot of this information comes from Carole Serene Borgens' channeling. She channels an entity named Pax. I've always been interested in people who can channel, especially a certain entity. Ever since my first time I ever read a book by Edgar Cayce, or not by Edgar Cayce, but about Edgar Cayce. I believe it's definitely possible. I've had my own information come from the spirit world into my head. I didn't know how it happened. So to me, ever since then, I believed it's totally possible. I believed anyways. Maybe that's just me. Do you believe in channeling? I do. We're going to get some information. Take it as you will, and a lot of this, like you said, we might be talking about the coronavirus tonight. So let's hope YouTube doesn't have a problem with that, or Facebook. You know how that is. So if we do, just hopefully bear with us. We don't have any problems with that. The way it is, censorship. And of course, we got a lot in the World Wide Web of weird to get to. A lot. Of course, the monolith. We're going to talk about that. We have to. And we'll let you call in later in the show. We'll give out those phone lines in just a little while. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get rolling right into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guests, Penelope Jean Hayes and Carole Serene Borgens, will join us after the World Wide Web of Weird. They're not going to be on the video call with us tonight. It's late for Penelope, so I totally understand why guests want to just do the audio only. I would. I've done it as a guest on other shows. Like, yeah, I don't want to do the video. It's late, but I do it for you. But you'll hear them on audio. That also means we only have 2 ways to call in tonight, which is really only one because it's on the one phone line. I'll give that information out later. We want to call in. Carole as a channeler is not doing readings tonight. But if you have questions about what she has gotten information wise from Pax, a great call in. That'll be later in the show. All right. Joining us as usual is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great, thank you.
Excited for the guests tonight. We're going to talk, like I said, let's everybody put their fingers across that YouTube's AI doesn't get upset by what we talk about. You know how it goes. We never know. I mean, they took me down when I had an alien abductee guest on, so I don't know. It's weird. So from St. Augustine, Florida, Rob Autry. We didn't get to have you on sound check, so I want to make sure you're good. How you doing tonight, Rob?
Am I good?
You are good. You're good.
I'm good to go.
Yeah. Well, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. We do have a lot of weird to get to. Like I said, we're going to start off probably. I'll just give it away with the monolith story. We got to cover that. I'm sure everybody's seen that. So we got that to get to. A lot of weird stuff. I love my last story I'm going to share tonight. It's going to leave everybody feeling just great about their future. We can talk about our guest book, The Likely Future. See if this ferret zombies or no mink zombies are in our future. I don't know. That's also in the World Wide Web Weird. But speaking of the World Wide Web of Weird, let's go ahead and roll into it. Let me say it one more time to say it. World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web Weird, like I said, I gave it away already. We're going to talk about the monolith. There's updated news on it that I didn't have a part of this World Wide Web Weird, but I've read the article on it. We'll talk about it. But everybody's been talking about the monolith in Utah. Instagrammers tracked down mysterious 12-foot monolith that was found in remote part of Utah desert, as it revealed similar structures appeared in Seattle Park on New Year's Day nearly 20 years ago. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can see videos or pictures if you want to join us on Facebook or YouTube. But if you want to just listen, I will narrate as best as possible. All right, let's go pull up that share screen. Speaking of, all right, so here's what I get to. So I had this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but everybody's heard about the Utah monolith. And I saw this a few days ago. Curious tourists have tracked down a mysterious metal monolith that was discovered in a remote area of Utah desert earlier this month. As it is revealed, a similar version appeared, like I said, New Year's Day in Seattle. There's also one, I forgot what was the other country. They said there's one somebody made. Across the globe, UFO spotters and conspiracy theorists have become obsessed with the shiny triangular pillar that was discovered by baffled local officials counting bighorn sheep from the air last Wednesday in southeastern Utah. Several adventurous hikers successfully located the monolith on Tuesday and gleefully climbed the mystifying object and snapped photos with it, even though officials didn't disclose the exact location for people who would go searching for it, like these J-holes. We're climbing all over it. And now today we get I see that it is now gone. Somebody went and took it. I don't have that article, but I did read it. Somebody went and took it. Some new people went out there to go find it. And one person claimed to have seen a truck riding off with it. I wonder why. If it was the person that made it, they're probably like, man, I'm getting that back. Look at these idiots.
At least it wasn't a spaceship flying off.
The monkeys were smarter in 2001 Space Odyssey, honestly. When you compare the picture, what they're doing and what these idiots are doing, I think the monkeys were smarter. But this is why we can't have nice things. We can't have monoliths that might be a channel to God or aliens or something, because people got to go out there and climb all over it.
This is why we can't have
nice things, because people do what these dumbass people did. Seriously.
Tell them what was left in its place.
There was a triangular piece left there. It seems to be of the same metal. It might have been part of the base of this thing, and like a rock pile. It was made like a pyramid. You were saying?
I don't think it was the base. I think they yanked it out and left a little pyramid behind with the little meditation rock stacked.
I mean, I
think on this.
Yeah, was this just an artist that did this? I mean, okay, so I know I looked up, there's somebody that did research on this on Google Images and said that they traced it back to 2016, but it wasn't there in 2015, so it had to have appeared at some point in 2016. Somebody had to put it out there. So it's been out there for 4 years.
Yep.
So somebody spotted it for now. Maybe the owner was like, okay, I'm taking that back. You dumb people. Why we can't have nice things. Okay, let's move on.
Maybe the owner took it, or maybe somebody just came and stole it. Because I wouldn't put that past somebody,
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, this next one I got from Coast to Coast. For everybody, I hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I work retail, so I had a very tiring Thanksgiving this weekend. It was a weird retail Thanksgiving for me because, we have like a capacity limit. It was just not the same. And did not do well. But on to other things. But I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. One squirrel did. This is a video we'll got here. I'll play in a second. A video from Midwest shows a squirrel feeding on fermented pears with predictable results, while the famous prison concoction made of prunes purloined from the jail cafeteria and brewed in a secret is known to pack a clandestine punch. A squirrel in Inner Grove Heights, Minnesota, is apparently a repeat customer at a feeding station set up by resident Katie Morlock. Morlock said she stopped feeding this temporarily lucky rodent when she realized what was happening and ended the pre-Thanksgiving treat. Other critters such as moose, fruit bats, and most famously monkeys have historically exhibited a taste for alcohol when they get it, proving that humans aren't the only party animals. So what happens is the animal gets fermented fruit and they realize, I like this feeling. And so they'll let it sit. They'll let the pears and all that sit until it ferments and then go and get it if nothing else grabs it. So go ahead and play this. This is a squirrel drunk.
Nature
only on the World Wide Web of Weird. Go ahead. Ladies like bending into it. Like, oh man, that's some good stuff.
Feeling it.
He's feeling
and
it.
And they do it on purpose?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they like to get drunk too, I guess. Look at it, he's about ready to fall over. Whoa, lost the I know that feeling, squirrel. I know that feeling. You're about ready to blow chunks there.
I'm back.
He's like holding on the bowl. Just hold on to the bowl. Just hold on to the bowl. Hold on to the bowl. It's
hold on a lot of bowls.
All right. We'll move on. All right. So this one seems interesting. Archaeologist finds childhood home of Jesus. Professor Ken Dark, what a name. Professor Ken Dark sounds like a Marvel villain, believes that he has like a Marvel Barbie villain, believes that he has identified the home where Jesus once lived beneath a covenant in Nazareth. Professor Dark, who teaches archaeology and history at the UK's Reading University, has spent 14 years investigating the private dwelling, which is situated between the Sisters of Nazareth covenant. He believes that in all likelihood, it was indeed the childhood home of Jesus himself, the abode in which Mary and Joseph lived and where the young Jesus spent his early years. The home itself, which was first discovered in the 1880s, is certainly nothing remarkable and would have served as a home for a typical person back 2,000 years ago. There was nothing unusual about it. Dark told CBS News it's not pitifully poor, but there's no sign of any great wealth either. It's very ordinary. If this is a childhood environment, Jesus, there's no reason to believe that he grew up in anything other than a very typical Galilean rural home of its time. One clue to its connection with Jesus, and especially Joseph, was its construction. While Joseph is typically described as a carpenter, the Bible suggests he was adept at a range of crafting skills. Whoever built this house had a very good understanding of stoneworking that would be consistent with the sort of knowledge we would expect of someone who might be called a tecton. By itself, not got flashing lights saying this is where Jesus lived, but underneath a 5th century Byzantine church that is also not far from the Church of the Annunciation, the place where it is believed Mary was told by angels she would become the mother of Jesus. So they believe they built the churches around it, and that's why this might be the home of Jesus. Because what other clues do they really have besides that? Why would this home be preserved all this time? Interesting. I mean, there's no other way to prove that it's the home of Jesus beyond that, though. That's it. But that's interesting.
Jesus, you there?
Yeah, right. All right, moving on up. I thought this was a funny story. We always have like the International Space Station, and there's UFOs spotted and all this stuff. Well, one was debunked, and I think the debunked explanation is awesome. UFO sighting of alien spaceship aboard International Space Station turned out to be Russian urine. Yes, you heard that right. British astronaut Tim Peake has recalled the moment he thought he saw a UFO in space during his time aboard the International Space Station. Major Peake became the first British astronaut to join International Space Station when he spent 6 months aboard the orbiting laboratory in 2015. During his time on board, Major Peake said he once saw 3 lights moving in formation before they were joined by a 4th. We were perplexed until we realized that what we thought was the faraway lights of an alien spaceship were actually very close, small droplets, Major Peake told Graham Norton Show. What was happening was liquid leaking out of the Russian probe vehicle, crystallizing instantly and reflecting light. What we were seeing was Russian urine. Major Peake hopes to return to space the next few years, despite the initial trepidation he felt on the first mission. But, how many times we had International Space Station stuff, and I said, we can't, the only way I feel like it's not something like Russian urine or particles off. There's a lot of things that come off and fly around and debris in space. Is if it has movement, like the best one was the that one where you see the spaceship heading into the Earth atmosphere and something shoots up at it and it takes a sharp turn. Yeah. Then it's not Russian urine. Your Russian urine, I don't think takes sharp turns. I don't. But that's the thing. We have to be very skeptical of these videos we see at times. There's a lot of junk out there floating around. We don't know. I mean, even the astronauts were like, "Ooh, wow, UFO!" Oh no, it's the Russians' urine. They got a leak. Bump, bump, bump. They did have an air leak. Maybe they were leaking urine and air. Let's see what humans. We go out in space and we piss on everything.
Yep.
But we get so many. We've seen so many footage, and like I said, for me, the interesting ones are the ones that have the maneuvers that are like, okay, that can't be debris. It's maneuvering. It's taking angles, or it's But there's a lot of debris up there. Who knows? Okay, let's move on. And my notes disappeared. Great. There we go. Come up. All right, we're on. Okay. Next, speaking of UFOs. This one's from Unexplained Mysteries. Strange glowing object filmed near Stonehenge. Unidentified object was resembled a bright flat disc, was captured on camera by Tosh Minto and her partner Tony Waterhouse, who had been driving along the A303 near Muir on October 31st. I would not have thought in my wildest dreams that I would make a video like this, said Minto. On the way back from Devon yesterday, we noticed a huge bright light in the sky on the left side of the A303 road. It was orange and had a very strong artificial light. My partner said there may have been more lights, but I could have sworn it was a solid body. We thought of drones or reflectors, but by no means matched their size. The light was constant under the clouds and motionless. We rotated for about 3 minutes and then it disappeared. As things stand, it remains unclear what the object could have been. A big fan of nature, and they said, I'm a big fan of nature, and this didn't seem to come from anything like the sun or the moon. Because my first thought seeing this, if somebody were to share this video, like, oh, that's probably like the sun setting in clouds, and that's just like the tip of the sun. But these people don't believe it was. It felt like something coming from something artificial. Tony said it was definitely little green men. Personally, I think they're out there. They wouldn't be very little. I think they'd be giants. Okay. All right. Go ahead and play the video.
On the A303, coming from sort of Wincanton to Mere area, we noticed there's lights in the sky at about 5 o'clock on Halloween 2020. Now,
perfect time for UFO.
It looks like from a naked eye, lots of little dots, little lights, whereas my girlfriend thought it was just one solid beam. And as you can see, it's just hovering there in the sky. And then sort of we got this footage, but then very quickly it just disappeared. If anyone's got any explanation as to what it is, because as far as I'm concerned, it's a UFO. So we got some more footage. Again, we sort of zoomed in. It's quite grainy, but you can clearly see there's just some light.
It looks like
light.
Like I said, it could look like it's the sun setting and it's the clouds like covering it.
All time, it didn't move.
But if they don't believe that, I don't know.
Or anything.
Yeah,
you can mute it.
Just very
go ahead and mute it.
An explanation what it could be. I'd love to know.
You think they would understand or know if it was a sun or moon? They'd figure it out, maybe. Yeah. But I've had people share videos where like, no, that's definitely the sun. I don't know. It's weird. I mean,
it looks like the sun.
It looks like it could be, but otherwise it looks like it could be a big, giant, glowing, pillar of a ship. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something.
Oh yeah, it's long.
Yeah, and it's big. I mean, it definitely looks big. It looks like it could be. I don't know. I don't think it's a drone. I know that. I agree with them on that.
Again,
and I think for how long they saw it, I would think they would have figured out if it was a sun setting.
Yeah.
I think they would have figured that out. So I think it's something. I think there's something to it. And interesting that it's over Stonehenge. You wonder how many UFOs have been spotted in that area. Yeah. Like if it is, you hear, oh, it's the UFOs and alien connection and all that stuff. But if it is, are there a lot of UFOs there? I think so. I think if I've heard from people, there's been a lot of UFO sightings there. It's got weirdness. Man, one day I would love to go to Stonehenge. Stonehenge. All right, let's move on. This is from sun.co or the sun.com, U.S. Sun. Near miss, UFO almost collides with passenger jet as pilot approaches UK airport. What do I always say? Like, I want to see UFO. I haven't seen real UFO since I was a teenager, except for maybe this summer I might have saw something. But when I was definitely, no doubt, UFO, alien ship, big as hell. I know I saw one. That was when I was a teenager. I'd love to see that again, but not when I'm in a plane. UFO came within seconds of colliding with a passenger jet in a terrifying close call. The rogue object came out of the packed Boeing 737 plane almost head on as pilots appeared to land at Leeds Bradford Airport. The scare on September 1st was rated a Category A event by the UK Air Prox Board, which monitors and investigates near-miss events. The unidentified object, which could have been a drone or a lantern, was just 10 feet away from the flight arriving from Spain. The Air Prox report revealed both pilots suddenly saw a bright light and the object, which appeared to be moving towards the aircraft almost head on, slightly up and to the left. The object appeared to be without warning, and there was no time to act. After landing, the pilots were told that a police helicopter had seen lanterns flying in the area. Excuse me, sorry. Wow, that was bad. Try never to do that on air, right? But the report added neither of the pilots believed that they saw was a lantern. Investigators ruled that a definite risk of collision had existed. The near miss came 3 days before a drone came 3 feet away from a striking EasyJet flight, which had taken off from the Manchester airport. The Airbus A320 carrying 186 passengers was 8,000 feet over Greater Manchester. The drone was flying 20 times above the legal height. Pilots have reported fears of drones and getting close to passenger jets. There have been more than 400 incidents in the past 5 years. I'm not surprised. Ever since drone technology come out, I fear that is a big danger. The idiots get flying up in the air traffic. We had that. I think it was last Sunday. The guy was filming was above an airport. And of course the airport was closed down at the time, but it's still dangerous. Somebody was out there, most likely because he had like 80 videos of it, flying a drone at night after 11 o'clock. These guys didn't feel like it was a lantern. They felt it sounds like either a drone or UFO. I don't know. But that's the last thing I want to see. Is the last thing I want to see while I'm on a plane. I do not want to look out a window and see a UFO. I don't. Nope.
There's a man on the wing.
Yeah, or a man on the wing. I do not want to be William Shatner from The Twilight Zone. I do not.
Yeah.
Do not. I want to be like, there's a UFO out the window. You'll face some maneuvers. Like, what do? You're screwed. If this thing decides to go like all crazy on you. I mean, who knows? Okay. Last article. This one. Dead minks are rising from the grave in Denmark. I saw this article. Like, what? Yes. I have a thing. Like, I don't know what it is about ferrets and minks, but they kind of freak me out. No offense to anybody who has them as pets. I'm sure they're beautiful creatures, but they're like snakes. They freak me out. There's something about them I just don't like. Don't want them around. There's something, they freak me out.
At one point, I had 7 ferrets.
See, there you go. You always get the freaky creatures.
And one of them almost burnt my house down.
See? Evil little creature. It's just something in those little beady freaking eyes, man. I don't like beady little eyes, man.
Very mischievous.
Little beady eyes. All right. The mink that have been culled and buried due to the coronavirus have started emerging from beneath the soil. It's just coronavirus related, just to add cherry to the top of the cake on this one. The animals, which are typically farmed for their fur, have been killed in large numbers recently due to fears of over-mutated versions of the coronavirus that has threatened to spread to humans. In Denmark, mass graves have been dug to dispose of many thousands of culled mink. As it turns out, however, burying them under a thin layer of soil isn't good enough, as despite being deceased, animals have been starting to rise up out of the ground all by themselves. As the bodies decay, gases can be formed. National spokesperson Thomas Kirsten told the Danish Broadcasting Corporation that this causes the whole thing to expand a little. In this way, the worst case, the mink get pushed up out of the ground. To make matters worse, some of the burial sites are close to the lake and streams, and there's concern that the mass graves could contaminate the water supply. Efforts are now underway to shove more soil to mitigate the problem. It's a natural process. It's just natural. It's a natural process. The dead mink's rising up out of the ground. Unfortunately, 1 meter of soil is just not 1 meter of soil. It depends on what type of soil it is. The problem is that the sandy soil in West Jutland is too light, so we have to lay more soil on top. So imagine being in a place where you live and you have dead minks coming up out of the ground. Dead minks with coronavirus. So my fear is that they're talking about this virus going to the minks. So the minks have their own coronavirus. Is that what they're saying?
There's a lot.
I do know.
And animals and pass it. It's hit or miss.
But look, now they're afraid of it spreading to humans. And obviously it's killing enough of these things that they're burying enough of them. It's freaking them out that it's coming out of the ground. So what's going on?
Damn minks.
That's why Bobby
Zombie
said
minks. You know, I mean, zombie minks, that would just be my luck. That'd just be how we end 2020. It was zombie minks. But that is it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Like I said, I work retail. This coronavirus thing is getting real weird. It was a weird weekend for me, working Black Friday weekend. You know, we had to have lines of people waiting to come in the store. It's like all that money is out there. I just can't get into my store in and out fast enough because of it. So it's taking its toll on me. It was a very stressful weekend, even though it was totally not a stressful weekend. Like I'm used to like busy store and customers packed in and, you know, constantly be pulled this way and that way. And, you know, time goes by like this. This was like standing around going, okay, you can go home. You can go home. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got a whole line out the door. People just standing 6 feet apart.
We're all crazy here, but we're open for business.
Yeah, we're open for business. But it, you know, there's the and I'm not against the capacity limit. I'm not saying I'm against it, you know, because I don't want to. I'm not saying I wanted that crowd in the store. I didn't. We have to face the situation we face. It is what it is. I'm not, you know, I'm not saying let's pack them all in. It just sucked. This sucks so bad. It's just like it's the new normal, you know. I'm like, yeah, it can't be the new normal, or I'm screwed. I'm out of a job. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guests are Penelope Jean Hayes and Carole Serene Borgens. They are going to join us after this commercial break. And we're going to talk about Carole, who is a channeler, who channels the entity Pax. And there's going to be some stuff about what they Pax has told her about the coronavirus. I think it's going to be very interesting. And Penelope, she's an expert in the field of contagious and osmotic energy known as viralenology, which is like viral energy or something like that. I'm interested in talking to her about that. So we got a lot to get to, and we'll open up the phone lines later in the show. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
Do you like rock and roll? Do you enjoy a good story? Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It will not only entertain you, but intrigue you. What is it about? Well, Thomas is searching for his bandmate and friend in heaven, and in spirit has helped pen this story. He meets an old friend and famous new ones on his afterlife voyage. Midwest Book Review said, Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It's a quirky story by Joyce S. Isaacson and is unique, original, and deftly crafted metaphysical novel that showcases the author's genuine flair for character and narrative-driven entertainment that is simply riveting from first page to last. Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy, is now available on pennantpublication.com, amazon.com in paperback and hardcover, and also on Kindle Unlimited. So check it out now. Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guests are Penelope Jean Hayes and Carole Serene Borgens. Penelope Jean Hayes is the foremost leader in the field of contagious and osmotic energy known as Viralenology, and she has appeared on television 100 times as an expert guest, including for Dr. Phil, ABC News, and internationally. She is the founder of the Viralenology Institute for Personal, Interpersonal, and Planetary Wellness. Penelope is the author of the books The Magic Viral Energy, An Ancient Key to Happiness, Empowerment and Purpose, Mind, Body, and Spirit Self-Help, The Likely Future, 2 volumes of spiritual advice on the coronavirus pandemic, and Do Unto Earth, It's Not Too Late, Spiritual Environment Series. Additionally, she hosts a podcast for the show about contagious and viral energy simply called Penelope, available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, plus is a co-host of a hot new podcast, Spiritual Yada. Carole Serene Borgens has a gift as a channeler and medium of communicating directly with the spirit messenger Pax, while also growing her own inner peace and balance in a world of of uncertainty. Through automatic writing, Carole Serene and Pax have brought wisdom and guidance to people around the world since the early 1990s. Their current writings from the books, The Likely Future, short and long-term guidance from the source, a COVID-19 expose, as well Due Unto Earth, It's Not Too Late, guidance for repairing our damage to the planet Earth, and much more. Carole's diverse background includes nursing, breeding, and showing purebred dogs, racing British sports cars, wow, restoration of old wooden boats, and so much more. As Carole says, the gift of Pax is the greatest blessing in her life. We're going to take your guys' calls later in the show, and like I said, we're not doing readings tonight, but if you have questions about the information Carole has channeled for Pax, please call in and ask about that. But let's go ahead and get to our guests. Hopefully they're here with us. You here with me, Carole and Penelope?
Yes.
Awesome.
Good evening, Jason.
Good evening, ladies. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Now,
yes, thank you.
Now, I haven't got to read the book, but I am interested definitely to read Due Unto Earth, It's Not Too Late. I really hope it's not too late, because I'm a big believer that we are totally, screwing this planet up big time. But maybe not in the sense that everybody... There's a whole, I'm always the guy in the middle. I'm always the guy arguing with two different sides. Like you got the whole climate change, the world's going to end tomorrow kind of people. And you got the other people like, it doesn't exist. We're not doing any harm. I don't, I fall right in the middle of that argument, like I do with about everything else. But it seems like that's where we are in 2020 it's got to be either you're on this side or you're on that side of the argument. And I'm like, I'm just on the side of let's make sure we don't kill everybody and destroy the only thing we got here is planet Earth. Yeah, let's just start there. Can we agree on that? We can all agree on that, right?
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you guys want to start. I don't know for you, Penelope. I actually do want to cover just a little bit. I know we want to talk about Due Unto Earth. I'm very interested in the viral energy aspect that you do. If you could talk a little bit about that to start.
Sure. So I'm a viralenologist, which is a derivative of the words viral energy. And really all that is the contagious nature of energy in our social interactions and the environments all around us. So we know that a smile is contagious, laughter is infectious, and also the negative. And don't we really feel that these days with everything going on with the virus and the political climate? So it's it's something that we really, sense and intuit, but it also has real impacts in our lives. And so to mitigate that and to be aware and mindful of that is the type of work that I do. And as you said in your wonderful introduction, the Viral Energy Institute focuses on the personal, interpersonal, and planetary wellness using the study of viralenology. And so that has impacts. Viral energy masses have impacts on planet Earth. So you look at some of the negativity going on a massive scale and how that energetically impacts the world. So it's just some kind of an introduction to it. And the osmosis aspect is that, we certainly hear a lot about law of attraction, and we know what that is. It's like a radio receiver as well as broadcaster, and that those on the same wavelength will attract to one another. Right. So viral energy is a little bit different, and it happens simply by osmosis. So simply by, marinating in a certain energy, marinating in a certain vibe, we're picking that up. So we want to, first and foremost, just be mindful of what we're subjecting ourselves to, what we're marinating in.
Well, this is why I'm really interested in it, because I've had a lot of weird, it's the reason I do the show. I've had a lot of weird experiences ever since my earliest memories. And one of the things I've always experienced is people, when I first heard about what an empath is, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm like the type of person, if two people are fighting, I get sick in my stomach. Somebody's really angry with me, even when they're trying to cover it up, I get sick in my stomach. That's how I know. I feel the energy. I feel the thickness. I feel just the angst or anger towards me or towards somebody else. I don't like it. I was always the kid in the cafeteria when there was a fight that would break out, wouldn't stand up while everybody would stand up and watch, go, ooh, yeah. And I'd feel sick. And so I believe
that makes a lot of sense. And you're very empathetic.
Yeah, well, that's why I've learned and always been a believer that, all these different energies from people affect us.
Oh, they do so much more than people realize. And that's really the point of it, that one of the things we like to say is dilution is the solution to pollution. And that's actually an adage from the medical industry, so that if somebody had been poisoned, the first thing the doctors and nurses would do is dilute, so it's kind of, you teach yourself that dilution is the solution to pollution. So it's an instant reaction. Let's dilute the poisons. And the same holds true for those viral energies. And that word tends to feel like it's negative just because, especially these days when we're associating it with the virus, but viral is just contagious, and that can be the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, one of the things, I've had Dr. Barry Taff on, and we got a really interesting conversation because he has his own theories and from his research about certain locations reacting to people, like the energy of the location and the person. It's like the needle in the record player. Well, I added an element to it. I said, I think that's a part of it, but I do think there are, because he's trying to rule out entities. It's like it's a location and it's a person, and it's psychokinetic. I'm like, I do think there are certain parasitic entities, energy entities, like I'm not even talking. I mean,
oh sure,
have you ever watched Star Trek? I'm sorry if you haven't, but
well, I mean, I had the whole costume. Are you kidding me? I had the communicator. I had the whole deal.
I'm doing the live long and prosper right now.
For sure, I'm with you.
So there's Next Generation episode where they go into remember Barclay? He goes into the teleporter, and like he ends up seeing like these things in that teleporter stream, like these like worm-like entities coming at him and stuff. There's other episodes too that like there's something I was fascinated by, like unseen parallel universe entities interacting with us. We don't have any idea, feeding off our energies in different ways.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And you can, even leaving out the paranormal, the parasitic nature of people in our own lives that will feed off our energy. If for people who can actually see energy, and we know that you can feel energy, but there are people that can visually see it. It looks like a vacuum cleaner just sucking. So if you have a person in my first book, The Magic of Viral Energy, I call them stage 5 energy suckers. You can actually, if you can see the energy, that person is sucking it from you, just like you would have a vacuum, and you can see it just pulling from one person kind of in the crown area of the head to the other person. Wow. So it's definitely, there's so many parallels to what we have learned in science fiction, that these things come from somewhere. These ideas that turn up in the television shows actually come from some truth in a lot of cases.
We were talking about that last week with Nick Redfern about The Face on Mars was in an old comic book by Jack Kirby, who did it. Did he get that from the ether, like predict something that was going to happen, like the wreck of the Titan and the Titanic? Do we pull things from the ether like that, energy? I believe there's like a universal consciousness that we pull a lot of this information from. We'll get into more of that when it comes to channeling that. But when it comes
that's actually one of the great descriptions for Pax, is a universal consciousness. And, Carole and I like to say that we believe that, everybody has the ability to channel, or certainly to tap into their higher consciousness, that we're all empaths, we're all sensitive, and it's whether or not we spend the time to develop those skills. Just like someone, if they, play a certain sport, you can let that skill go dormant, or you can develop it. So we all have these abilities, these dormant abilities that, much of humanity has sort of forgotten and not developed. And then you have people like Carole who have developed them to the extent that she has. But I certainly believe that you have that gift as well.
Well, I see colors too off of it. Like just when I was coming downstairs before the show, I saw my son in the hallway, and I see blue all over his face, like the aura of blue. I don't know what that means. I've been seeing that stuff since my 20s. And I'm sure I saw it when I was a kid. But I'm a total believer people can, get information from either a universal consciousness, can see energy. I definitely believe you can feel it. What I've always thought, what I think is interesting about channeling is, everybody, being a sci-fi man that I am, you always see, like in Star Trek, they have like the, space, they talk across millions of miles of space somehow. How do they do that? Right. I always thought that, when it comes down to the simplest terms, if an advanced civilization can advance technology far enough, they'll advance spiritually far enough. that they could tap into something I think we just are slightly discovering, is that universal consciousness, and use telepathy to talk across
Bingo.
space. NASA actually experimented with some of this back in the day secretly.
Oh, yes.
We know through the Freedom of Information Act that they actually tried to see if they could do telepathy to the moon. It's interesting. To me, I think that you ever seen the movie K-Pax? With
gosh, that sounds familiar, but
when I thought of when she talks to Pax, it reminds me. Kevin Spacey. We'll ignore his personal problems, but it's a good movie. Kevin Spacey,
he's still a great actor,
right? Still a great actor. He's this entity, K-Pax, that like possesses a human body. Like when he's not there, the human's kind of autistic, I would guess, or not there. Or he was a guy who had a mental breakdown. I can't remember, but nobody believes he's really is this entity, but it is. I always thought if you could just tap into that kind of power to channel to another entity on another planet, then why would you need a spaceship?
Well, and that's actually one of the topics that we cover in our book, Do Unto Earth. We talk about our communication modes right now. And Pax says, all of these, the wires and even the virtual wires, you think of just, waves going through our homes and, obviously the physical wires too of telephones and all of this. He says it's a total mess. Communication on your planet Earth is a total mess. And so I go on to say, to ask the question, well, how do advanced societies do it? How do advanced peoples do it? What's in our future? What should we be doing? And it is telepathic. That is the way.
That's what I would think. Just my sci-fi brain. It's like, because, in sci-fi writer, he thinks about where we go technology, but they never get down to think where we go spiritually. Like they go in the future, with the technology, but they never break it down to like, well, if you get that far with the technology, maybe spiritually you do too.
Yeah, and Pax tells us that those things will go hand in hand because the spiritual evolution that, we can see, Jason, how we're on the cusp of this, right? This kind of talk, paranormal soup, all of these things are becoming so much more mainstream than they used to. So we know something's happening and our consciousness is raising. But what Pax also tells us is that the technology will not be revealed to us and be made known to us because it's actually given to us. It pops into our consciousness, pops into the consciousness of the scientists and the physicists, that it won't be given to us by the spirit world until we have the right intention to go along with that. So our spiritual evolution will be the pathway to all of these things that you talk about, all of these advancements.
Well, that makes sense when you mention how it, when it's the right time, it'll pop into the human consciousness. Some scientists will invent it or figure it out or whatever when it's the right time. Because I'm a big Tesla fan. And a lot of the electromagnetic problems we're having, we could tie it back to Tesla, but he was a genius. He was a mad genius. And it all came like, he could build stuff, 3D images in mind. Like, was that him tapping into this like universal knowledge, or like Da Vinci even,
Well, and it is, and all of them, even artists, they're channeling beautiful works of art, musicians, Mozart.
Oh yeah.
All of these are forms of channeling, and we all have access to these things. And this can be the sum total of our past lifetimes, the soul's journey, and what we've picked up along the way. You think of a snowball rolling down the hill, and what has it accumulated over those many lifetimes. And also tapping into that network, as you say, of universal consciousness, the fact that we are all connected, and we do have the ability to tap into those higher sources of wisdom and our own higher self. Our higher self is that.
Well, I would like to ask Carole, for you, how did you start channeling Pax? I mean, you're a medium, you talk to the spirit world. I mean, were you doing all that before you started channeling Pax?
Yes, Jason, to a certain extent I was. I was first met by Pax in the early to mid 1990s, where he approached with, and by the way, in the form of automatic writing is how we communicate. And he asked at that time if I would be willing to be his channel at the time for the purpose of bringing his wisdom and guidance to the world in the form of books that would be able to share his wisdom and his knowledge. At that time, I was unsure about undertaking that kind of responsibility, and after some time of contemplating it, I did agree. And to answer your question, yes, I had been very active in paranormal metaphysical studies before that point, really focusing on my beginning with a fascination with everything written by Edgar Cayce.
So I see all about that.
Yeah, what I wanted to know about was reincarnation and past life regression. So that's what I was practicing. I was practicing past life regression with people using a pretty standard format and way of doing it. I'm happy to say that through the work with Pax, I no longer have to use that application method for regressing people. When I am working with Pax and individual, and they are speaking to us for the purpose of healing something that is blocking their progress in life right now, whether it be personal, career, relationships, health, anything that they are struggling with. And it's a very, very deep reason that they've not been able to get past. With Pax, we determine that it is past lifetime related, and Pax has the ability to recognize where that person was in their past lifetime, enable us through the process to hone right in, not only on that lifetime, advising that person of where they were and who they were in that time, but we are enabled to visit the precise moment in time of their trauma and recognize what happened to this person then, why it's impacting them still in this lifetime today. And through their recognizing it, while they don't re-experience the trauma, they simply understand what it was, what happened to them, why it happened, and if it was done to them by another person, what the reason for that was. Now, what this does is it enables that person then to come to a complete understanding of why this happened, and it is still impacting them today, allowing them then to forgive who and what needs forgiving from that earlier time. And in that acceptance, they are able to release the connection, the triggers that are impacting their day-to-day life today, enable them to move beyond that and throughout into a healthier lifestyle. And this is one of the focuses that I do with Pax today, in addition to the writing, of course, which is our purpose now with Penelope, is to bring Pax's guidance. He's here to guide us in love and empowerment for the future of planet Earth and our people. And that's his great joy, is to empower us to move forward.
Well, I definitely, your interest in past life is something I've had. We've talked about, we've had guests on and talked about it endlessly on the show when it comes to past lives because of my fascination with it. Because I feel really lucky. I don't know why it happened, but I had two in my life. I've had two very vivid dreams that I completely believe are past life dreams. And looking at both of them deeply explained why I'm wired the way I'm wired. Like why I am the way I am. Both those past lives, if I look at them deeply enough, it explains so much. So I think that's a big key to it. So you were doing readings basically before Pax for people, or having people past life regress, but now Pax is kind of like basically laying out these people's past lives and what they need to learn from it. Is that what I'm getting from that?
Yeah, Jason, it's a shortcut now.
Yeah, because it was really vivid. My dreams were really horrible. Like to go through, but it explained a lot. But it'd be great just somebody else explain it to me.
Well, that was a gift for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I do feel it was. I really do. Like, as I always wanted to know about past lives, and I got my answers. I think both those times, very vividly. Now, Pax, who is Pax? I mean, is he from another planet or another dimension? I mean, does he tell you that information?
He talks of himself as a divine wisdom source, a universal energy, and spirit energy source. I always considered Pax to be my personal spirit guide, which I still do, but it has enlarged greatly since then. He is the source of collective consciousness wisdom that we can all avail ourselves of. We can all access. He says, my wisdom is there for the enlightened. Anyone can access it. So I think that's a pretty broad statement, and an understanding that people can have that everyone has a gift. It just takes a little time to develop it.
Yeah, I'm a total believer in that. You think, I'm sure, Kate, we were talking about the messy ways of human communication. We have all this electromagnetic energy right now. They're talking about making we're getting 5G. We're just bombarding ourselves with electromagnetic energy every day with our cell phones and computers and everything. Is that hindering us from reaching that potential?
Yes, we actually talk about that very specifically in Do Unto Earth. It's such a comprehensive book. It is a book about environmental healing, but it incorporates so much. It's just this wonderful resource for so many things. And a lot of that comes back to our healing and the future ways that we should aspire to seek as we do develop. And we do talk about the electromagnetic radiation. And I asked specifically, so just to kind of preface my job in this, if you will, in our books together, the three of us, Carole and Pax and myself, my job is as a journalist. And so my background is as a journalist, as well as the work that I do with Viralenology. And so I asked the questions in the books, and they're derived from the things that I was working on, the environmental aspect. And so one of the questions that I had asked when we were talking about EMF is about the mineral shungite, which is mined from Russia, and that, we can buy the shungite cover for our cell phone. And would that really protect us from the EMF, from the waves? And Pax says, well, yes, but also to really look at what's really frying the brains of our youth is simply the device itself, and that it hinders their growth, their ability to communicate on their own, to develop those communication skills. And it goes so far beyond just our interpersonal communication, because if you're not even developing that, you have no interactions because you're always on this phone, these devices, you're not developing those skills. But far beyond that, you're certainly not developing your sixth sense and all of our abilities to know the answers within ourselves. We know when something feels right and when something feels wrong. And if we develop that more and more, that will be our guiding light. And so, the kids and the youth, or people of any age that just immerse themselves in, these electronics and the cell phones, are really missing out on their development.
Oh, I see it. I'm a hiring manager for my job. And I hire a lot of 18, 20-year-olds. And I'm like, you're not a dumb kid, but boy, you cannot communicate. You cannot talk to people,
Yeah.
There's
a lost.
Yeah, exactly.
A lost art.
And, I've been told I have the gift of gab, but I feel like,
what do you think?
I try having a conversation with these kids, and it's like, okay, maybe I'm just old. That's I'm just old. I'm 41. I guess I can't talk to these kids. Some of them I can, but the communication skills are just not there. I can talk to customers all day long, and these kids just stiffen up and go like, oh my God, it's a human being. I got to talk to a human being. I can't talk to a human being.
Yeah. It's a shame.
But look where we're heading to, with like the CEO of Google and Elon Musk talking about transhumanism. We're not talking about getting away from machines. We're talking about becoming part machine. Pax talking about that, because that's the future I see. As my sci-fi brain goes, I see us becoming the Borg.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you have read the book. So you definitely are tapping into something here, Jason. We talk about that in the future, there will be, a lot of technologies that you think of a cell phone getting smaller and smaller and smaller until And not only does it do what a phone does, but it operates everything. It can turn on your lights, all of the things that it can run within your household. And it's all in this tiny little thing that you can hold in the palm of your hand. And then as that develops, it's so small, you can insert it under the skin.
Yep.
And so it was a reminiscent, of course, of, revelations in the Bible. And some people fear this idea of, chipping everyone. So
I do.
of course I had to ask about that, and the idea of globalization, the idea of chipping. And the answer was interesting. And it does go back to empowerment, as Carole had mentioned. But the answer was that I said, well, do you approve of this chip under the skin that we will one day, be moving towards and have? And Pax said, it's not that if I approve, it's if you approve. And this was like an individual thing that nobody's going to force to have, chips underneath it's not going to be everybody's being chipped, but it would be the concept of, do you want the phone that you have? Do you want the technology? And the same would be in the case of the chip. It's always a choice. Is this something that each person as an individual would want? And I do want to go back to kind of the description of Pax, because I always think this is so important. When I was asking Pax, so I was new to this team, and Carole knows Pax for many years. And so she knows and feels who Pax is. And for me coming into this, asking questions, I want to know everything. I want to have like a baseline of who I'm talking to here. So I asked, more specifically, who are you? I had wondered if Pax ever walked the earth. I had wondered, was he Jesus incarnated or something like that? And no, he was always spirit. But his answer to who he was, and this is a quote, he said, "We are one with the universe, not the universe alone. We are the divine universe, yes, and the God being and the greater wisdom, that which knows and supports all and is healing, non-judgmental and tolerant, all-seeing, all-knowing, and peace." End quote. So that was kind of a jaw dropper, right, Jason? Because I realize I'm talking to the God being. Like, if you could ask the God being, the divine wisdom source, anything, what would it be?
Yeah, and hope you don't get the answer 42. Sorry, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference there. But well, I've always when I first read the book when I was a kid, I found my mom's copy of The Sleeping Prophet, Edgar Casey. I was just like, oh, he's gone. It would be so awesome to sit down with Edgar Casey and all right, dude, go to sleep. I want to ask a billion questions. I got a billion questions. They're like, well, okay, and then he does it, and I'm like, okay, hold on, I got to think of a question. Now, because if you have that kind of access to that kind of knowledge, I mean, your brain kind of might just have a fart and shut down. And what do I ask? So how do you handle that? You now you realize you're talking to this divine entity that has access to universal consciousness. What is your first question? Like, what was the first thing you got into with Pax?
My very first question was that many people believe that we are aliens to this planet because humans are the only species that are so out of whack with nature, so destructive to our planet. Are we, in fact, aliens to planet Earth? That was my first question.
Yeah.
I bet you want to know the answer.
Yes, I do.
The answer was, you are indeed from elsewhere, from light years away, and this will be controversial. So the answer was, it's quite a conversation. So there's a lot of pieces to the conversation, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. So Pax told us that humans are not indigenous to planet Earth, that we came from other planets, and not just one planet and not just one people,
right,
but from many planets in the galaxy and other galaxies, far away galaxies, light years away. And that Earth was intended, actually called the Planet Earth Project. And the whole point, the purpose and point of Earth was to bring different peoples from different planets together onto one planet, and to see how they interact with each other, how they unite, and how will their civilization develop. And he asked me to look at the word civilization, and that our ancient ancestors, which we would call aliens or ETs, these are our ancestors, they buzz by to check on us, and they want to check on how our civilization is developing. And he asked me to look at the word, and to look at the word civil, because, I said, well, what do they what do they want when they're checking on us? And he said, just to know if you're being civil or how you're being civil. Are you being civil? Yeah. And here we are still working on that. You look at the issues that we're dealing with now, the tension between races and the lack of unity in so many places is just like boiling over at this time. So we're still working on that.
Well, I've had several guests that kind of have that same kind of concept, and it always fascinates me about that. When I was a teenager, and that before I got into all this, I used to try to write fictional sci-fi stories, and one of my concepts I really tried to work on was like, where do humans come from? And the concept I had was that I got from the word of Adam, of many, is that the human gene, and one of my concepts, like, all was made up of all these different alien races, that we were a treaty world in my fictional story.
There you go.
That we, all these, there's a great galactic war and all these aliens fought, and they had to do something with the souls of these aliens, and they put them here on Earth all together, and they got to figure it out as one species.
Science fiction. That would be such a natural next, thing for you to do, is to write science fiction. If you ever, really wanted to do that, I could certainly see that happening.
I got one publisher that's trying to get me to.
Sorry?
I got one publishing friend that's trying to get me to. I know.
Well, hey, yeah. And you will if you want to, right?
Yeah.
Pax says that all ETs are friendly. So he speaks many times during the book. We have a lot of talk about extraterrestrials, and a lot of talk. He refers to them as our friendly interstellar visitors, or OPAs, other planetary ancestors. And so he, just kept repeating this phrase, the friendly interstellar visitors. And so I said, well, wait a minute, like, are all ETs friendly? Are all aliens friendly? And he said, indeed they are. So that, their advanced, their purpose in checking in on us or visitations is as, loving ancestors, loving relatives in a way. And I do talk about alien abduction, things that don't sound so friendly. It's sort of like, well, wait a minute, if they're all friendly, what about this and what about that? And we get answers to all of that. Do Under Earth is absolutely, it's a mind-blowing book.
I definitely have friends that are, I have a couple that are alien abductees that would disagree that they're all friendly.
Right.
They've had some pretty traumatic physical experiences, but
I believe that.
Maybe what he's trying to get us to understand is, in general, the universe is more of a friendly place than what we fear, hopefully.
Well, their intentions is what is friendly. And so that there are some beings, some alien cultures that have less of the, touchy-feely. And so they're almost, you would think robotic or scientific in ways. And so they have abducted humans and tested on them, in particular to learn more about their reproductive ways, human reproduction. That's of great interest to many alien communities, as they have not, they have issues with their reproduction. So it does not come across as friendly to the abductee. It's in many ways, a terrifying, violent experience. However, what Pax is saying is that this was not the intention, that, more scientific was the intention. And unfortunately, that's not how we do business on planet Earth. No, thank you.
Well, it's just like us, tagging animals in the wild. It's the intent, even for that, the intention isn't bad, but I'm sure the animal is scared out of its mind.
Oh, I've said that. My husband and I were watching one of those where they tag the shark and they pull it up on the boat, they tag it, and I said, "This is an alien abduction."
It is. It totally is. It totally is.
They take their, the eggs. They're taking samples of everything. They take their blood. It's the same thing.
They put a tag
and our
on
intention is to help them. Apparently, with their reproduction.
Yeah, and we tag them and track them.
I have to agree with Penelope, and there's something lost in the translation between friendly Earth and friendly off Earth. Their intentions, as Penelope says, are reasonably honorable, and they just don't have the emotion to work with that we do. So we judge it quite differently.
So I always loved about Doctor Who, if you have another sci-fi classic, is his perspective on aliens. And it's like, well, you don't understand where the alien's coming from. you know, you don't understand their culture, their perspective. You know, we always chide the humans that tag along with them. And then I think that's a lot of it could be our misunderstanding. You know, we only have our perceptions living on this planet. We don't know what they're like culture wise or what they, and then again, we could be the cattle or the animal being tagged. So, you know, that's little karma.
Right. Touche.
Yeah. You know, that's what I wonder. I mean, you think about, you know, what we do. I mean, I'm just as guilty as the next. I like my hamburger. You know, I'm definitely not a vegetarian. But you know, I do know it's bad. You know, I do know what we do with animals is not the greatest thing. And there might be some karmic thing there of us being picked up or maybe even being eaten by aliens. Some people claim that. For that friendly alien thing, you know, but it might be some karma. You know, we think we're the highest person on the food chain. You know, well, maybe not.
Yeah, and we talk about that too. Pax says that, you know, the best way for us, you know, emotionally, spiritually, health wise, as well as the health of the planet, would be a plant-based diet. He also does preface by saying that by no means are we, meaning we, the spirit world, you know, recommending or because they don't do that. You know, it's choice. So it's up to everyone what we choose. But I kind of push the issue and I'm like, but really, what would be best? You know, what would be the best thing for our health and the health of the planet? And the best thing would be to return to plant-based diet.
True vegetarian there. You're like, come on, Pax, you're right. You know, I'm right.
Right. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Let me press you on this just a little bit. So, but there's no judgment from the spirit world.
My mom's a vegetarian Buddhist. I have a lot of experience of this, but you know, she doesn't you know, judge me for my meat eating. But you know, I have a lot of vegetarian friends, and that I'm like, I totally get it. I totally want to do it. Maybe one day. Then I go and eat a double cheeseburger.
But yeah, it's all a choice. Maybe one day.
Yeah, I know. I'm the bad meat eater. I know. I like my steak. I know it's bad. I know. I've seen the slaughterhouses. I'm like,
it's not bad. It's a culture. You know, you were raised a certain way, and it's hard to you know, transition. But little by little, if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah, it's like us judging the Chinese people for eating dogs. You know.
Yeah, well, it's a very good point, because, you know, how do you make how do you draw a comparison between a cow or, you know, specifically think of a baby cow, you know, think of a lamb, you know, what is the difference between that
and Bambi in there, right? You know, like, don't
Bambi, we'll put Bambi in there too. But what is the difference between that and our family pet? And to us, It's a great difference. To them, it's not.
No, I totally get it. I've been on farms. I've petted the animals. I'm like, oh, I eat you. I'm sorry. You know, you look in their eyes. I'm like, I'm sorry. I eat you.
I know.
So it might happen one day. But you know, my wife does most of the cooking, so I'd have to convince her of that too. Like, hey, let's change things up. You know, like make it harder
and you
on
know.
her.
Yeah, you know, these days we don't see the whole chain of events. It used to be where, you know, it might be that animal originated on the family farm, right? So you would at least know what the process is. And so we ate less meat. It was a rare thing. It was sort of a, you know, a special thing for special occasions. And now, you know, you're just getting this, you know, slab of meat in cellophane at the grocery store. There's no awareness at all about the process of where that animal came from. And you look at the First Nations people and how they have, you know, gratitude to the soul of the animal for having given the sacrifice. And so it's much more in balance, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And then humans came here, or Europeans came here and just totally slaughtered all the buffalo and didn't just left their bodies, didn't, you know, do it. I'm sure it was just totally apparent to the Indians that they just invited a bunch of jerks over. But you know, but that you know, that is, you had to imagine in the universe, if there's other alien species, they're making these same mistakes, I guess. You know, it's probably part of evolution, you know, so that's why we're not being judged, I guess, by Pax on it. It's like, you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, you are where you are, but it's also just your own detriment. So, you know, the things that we're doing that maybe aren't the best for us are affecting, well, on an individual level, affecting us. But Pax talks about how the things that we do, you know, say wars on our planet, send ripples out into the universe that all the other, you know, civilizations on other planets and other, you know, far reaches of the universe feel the ripples when we leave space junk. in space. We send up rockets every day just to, set a new satellite. And there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of satellites up there.
Look at Starlink. I mean, there are like 5,000 of them up there or something like that right now.
It's insane. And every time we're going up, we're leaving the cartridges behind. The fuel cartridges just pop off, leave them in space. There's no plan for that. They're just left there. And whenever we do this sends just ripples into the universe of our attitude, where we are with our intentions, how we pollute, and that we're okay with that. So this is, I said, wow, so the universe is holistic. It's just, it is all connected. It's all holistic. There are repercussions to what we're doing. And it's pretty amazing, actually, when we think about it.
Well, when we set off the first nuclear bomb, I'm sure that had to be quite a ripple.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And think about all of, I'm sure you've talked about on your show how the different nuclear plants have suddenly gone down. So they've powered down. And the concept is that, aliens are kind of monitoring that in some way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of my friends that's not alien abductee, before he was abducted, first UFO, well, that wasn't his first UFO, but one of the main UFO instances, he was working for the Air Force on a nuclear base, with nuclear missiles.
Wow.
And a big UFO showed up there. We've heard countless stories. We heard of them shutting them off or turning them on. In Russia, there's the instance where they actually armed the missiles. So there's always seems to be, ever since the nuclear bomb, that also this when we got our UFO wave is not long after the first atomic bomb. A lot. It seemed that's when in the 1940s, 1947. Roswell was right near. That was the only nuclear air bomb. Where they had actual nuclear bombs where they could launch from planes was the Roswell base.
Right.
It seems that brought something here that got somebody's attention.
Oh, it did. It did. Do you want to know what Pax has to say about Roswell?
Yes, I would love to know.
Okay. This was one of my main questions. I was just dying to know, what really happened at Roswell. So, of course, it did happen. Pax says that 8 spacecraft arrived that day, that it was actually a planned meeting between the United States government and the ETs, that there was communication, telepathic communication. It was a planned and agreed upon meeting on that day in 1947. And that as the 8 craft got closer and approached, the U.S. government shot one down with the intention of, studying it, stealing the technology. Yeah, of course. Meanwhile, the ETs wanted to give the technology, wanted to help us advance. It was going to be, a partnership, if you will. And instead, the U.S. military shot one down. So Pax says that one being on that spacecraft actually survived for a period of time, and that the U.S. government tested on the being until he succumbed to his injuries and died.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
It sounds like how we would roll. That's how we would play it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's about right. Well, there was before Roswell, there's other crashes that might have happened before Roswell. We might have had some inkling. But for the telepathic communication from the aliens, did he give you insight who they were communicating or how they communicated with somebody? I mean, it had to have been somebody within the government, right? To do that?
Yes. I asked about that, and the answer was it was telepathic. So it was really curious to me that, we were having, did the ideas just pop into their head? But there's so much about government that we don't really know, and how government does use psychic powers and have for a very long time. Pax also spoke about remote viewing, and governments hire people to do remote viewing on other countries.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So
we took it seriously when the Russians took it seriously. We invested a lot of money in it. And then I think it went underground. I think we're still doing it. I mean, I honestly think we're still using if it works, we didn't give up on it. It just went dark.
I believe that. Yeah.
I do too. I think it's just gone dark because it's such a valuable resource. It's got to be still in play.
Oh, hugely valuable. I mean, why would you just cut out that resource?
Well, honestly, though, I mean, I have to go here with this. I mean, Pax seems like a cool being. Like he seems very chill.
Yeah.
But if you go back in your history and the kind of conspiracy of the Nazis is the Thal Society, where they did channeling. and they said they might have gotten technology through channeling and contacted this Aryan race through channeling. I mean, yeah, they could have been having their chains yanked by some, I don't know, even con artist in Germany, but the Thal Society did exist, and they did do channeling, and Heimlich Himmler, and I'm trying to think the other SSS or SS Nazi that was involved were true believers in it, and they believe it gave them technology. And you can see, when they talk about the Nazi bell and stuff like that, they were getting some kind of thing that was definitely pushing them more advanced in the technology at the time.
Yeah, it's so
was a great
interesting.
believer too.
What'd you say?
Yeah.
I said that Hitler was also a believer.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he basically, the Thal Society helped get him to power, early on. So I mean, yeah, they weren't very public about it, but after the war, this is when we found out a lot of this stuff. I mean, publicly found out about it. The British intelligence knew about it. They enlisted Lister Crowley during the war to try to get in with the occult sectors of the Nazis. But that you see what I'm getting at is that they were if they were channeling something that can't be good, right? I mean, how would that work?
Correct. Yeah. It's actually kind of interesting to me too that there seems to be an assumption that if you channel and you tap into these sixth sense abilities, that it must be a very spiritual thing and therefore very positive always, but not the case. I mean, what do you say, Carole?
Pardon me. I say you're absolutely correct. There's a tremendous amount of dark energy out there, and people like myself avoid it, undertake a lot of personal protections before beginning any channeling session. And I tend to forget that darkness exists because we work only with the light for healing purposes. But you're absolutely right. There is there's evil, and it's accessible. And there are spirits that are just in a holding pattern waiting to find someone that they can commandeer their mind or their body, or speak through someone, or have a disciple that will believe in their purpose. And this is how very dark movements begin. Yeah.
I mean, that's my point about the Nazis. You look into that, that's a scary thought that somebody could channel something that would start a movement like that. There's a dark side to everything. I always say there's a balance, light and good. I'm a Force guy. I'm a Star Wars guy too. So I believe in the dark side. And I'm sorry I went there. I'm sorry I went to the dark side, Carole. But it's just something that fascinates me about that time in history.
Oh, no. Don't be, because it's reality.
Yeah.
Anybody who has any interest whatsoever in spirit work, in channeling, has to understand that dark side is very much there, and has to be aware of it and prepared to protect themselves from it. So yes, you need to talk about it. It's unfortunate, but it's part of what's out there waiting if we're not careful.
I've always believed too, for people that do get involved to start learning how to communicate with the other side or trust their instinct, is I always make a Star Wars reference to this, is the cave on Dagobah. Luke is studying with Yoda, and he tells him to go into this dark cave, and Luke goes to take his weapons, and he goes, "No weapons." Basically, I can't do my Yoda impression. Sorry. Weapons
Not
you
bad.
did not,
Hey, that was good.
But he decides to take his weapons in with him, and what happens? He ends up getting in a fight with a ghost Darth Vader. That ends up being him in the end, getting some personal message, giving away what the ending of Star Wars is going to be, I guess, foreshadowing.
Right.
But he went in there with his weapons. He went in there for a fight.
Yeah, intention.
And I always thought that was a really good parallel to when it comes to the spirit world and communication, is that your intention is everything. It's the cave in Dagobah. Don't go in there with the weapons. Don't go in there with the attack mode or the negativity, because that's what you're going to get back. It's like a mirror.
It's so true. Intention was mentioned 52 individual unique times in Do Unto Earth.
Oh yeah, I bet. Well, you talk about Viralenology. I mean, right now it feels like there's something energetically viral bad right now in 2020.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it. Everybody feels it. Everything,
Sure.
it seems like everybody's at each other's throats. It's negative, and even before coronavirus, even before the coronavirus, it seems that's how it's been for the last 4 years. And I'm not getting into politics. I'm not blaming one politician for it. It seems to be something all over the world. Okay, it's not just even America. Okay, it seems to be happening all over. Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's it. It's contagious. That's the whole. Yeah, that's the whole thing here, is that it's contagious, and also exponential. So the more there is, the more there is.
It's the snowball that gets bigger.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what worries me, because again, I'm a history person. Is you look at the Nazis, and again, I am not making political references here, people. I'm just talking about history in itself. The way the Nazis, that movement was formed, the symbolism they used to kind of control people's minds and make that movement. And, there's a lot of good people in Germany, but they still went for it. They still fell into that. They still fell into that idea and went to war. That's what I'm afraid of, is what idea are we going to fall into? What thing are we going to fall? Where do we land from here? That's, are we going to land on our feet and make things better? Or are we going to land on our feet and go to war? What's going to happen? That's this energy is building up to something. That's what I feel.
Well, some good news. Pax tells us that light will win over darkness. So hopefully that gives you some inspiration moving forward. But
I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah, exactly. Give me some hope.
Give me something. Give me something.
Yeah, I know, right? But, we do find that sometimes after these, the worst crisis comes the best times. So we can look forward to, I would hope, something better. Maybe 2021 is going to be our year.
Everybody keeps saying that. I just hope we're not all really disappointed as this crap just keeps going on. Like, it's 2021. Come on. We're all going to be saying that, for at least the first few months. Hopefully things do get better. I don't know. I mean, things are really going to change just because the year changed. I don't know. But I do feel like you talked about viral energy. That's why I said I was really interested in tonight, because I do feel like there is this mass energy just pushing us towards negativity, pushing us towards arguments, pushing us in just the worst way. And here we get coronavirus with it. Like, that feels connected to this energy. Like, it brought it about.
It very well could. It's when it's contagious, it feeds off of it and it creates more of the same. It repopulates itself. And it's creating something. I mean, you can create anything. You can create light, you can create darkness. And so there's a lot of creating right now of things that we don't want. And so hopefully there is more good inside of us, and that we realize, hey, you know what? This is something I don't want. I don't want to create this anymore. And I think things will change. I think that there is a spiritual awakening happening. And oftentimes it is when, we see the dark that we then appreciate the light, or that you can even recognize the light in the presence of darkness. So I do feel very positive for our future ahead. And Pax speaks about the human population is on the cusp of our next stretch. The next evolution is a spiritual evolution, and the next phase for us, which is coming in our soon time. He likes to use soon time and far time. Because there's no linear time in the spirit world. So in the soon time, humans will start really, everyone will start evolving these sixth sense and the ability to sense truth and to sense lies. Could you imagine, Jason, how politics will change?
Oh, that would be great, because they're all liars.
They'll change everything.
They're all liars. People would finally realize. That'd be great if everybody could just
there you go.
Be like, oh my God, they're all full of crap. Every single one of them.
Exactly.
Left,
and
right,
so nothing could be hidden.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We got to go to commercial break. When we come back, we will open up the phone lines, guys, so you can call in the show, ask your questions of Carole and Penelope. But we will be back after the short commercial break.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHN Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHN Digital Broadcasting.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife? Like to travel?
Let's go back into history.
Let's reach out and touch someone. Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden?
Excellent! Execute them. Bogus.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live.
you'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
42?
Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guests are Penelope Jean Hayes and Carole Serene Borgens. Penelope, she is an expert in the field of contagious and osmotic energy known as viralenology. We're talking about how energy can be viral. And I feel like there's a viral something energetically going on the last couple years here around the world, not just in America. I know we all feel like it's all happening just here, but it's happening all over the world. People are losing their minds. I don't know. And before coronavirus even. And we'll talk more about that tonight. Carole, as a channeler, communicating with the spirit of Pax, as I understand it, has channeled within her book, The Likely Futures, about advice about the coronavirus. And I'd love to get their insights on that. We're living in it right now. I'd love to know. I've known people personally that have been infected with the coronavirus. It's affected them deeply. Exhaustion. I mean, it's a real thing. And for people that don't believe it, I mean, take your own risks. But I do believe it's real. But I also am not with the people who are like losing their minds. We're all going to die from it either. I'm always in the middle. I'm always in the middle of the argument. But it is something to take seriously. I don't like the term I keep hearing, the new normal. I want to get back to, I don't know, if this is a new normal, then create another new normal, because I don't like it. That's how it's going. And then maybe that's just adding this snowball effect of energy. Maybe the coronavirus is, maybe it's when we choose the form of our destructor, like at the end of Ghostbusters. That's what coronavirus is. It's just what's happening because of the energy. It's just boiling over. We're getting coronavirus. Who knows what's next? Maybe Pax has insight. If you'd like to call in tonight to ask these kind of questions, there's two phone lines to call in. It's a 219-230-4444. That's 219-230-4444. Or you can call in on Skype ID OOJBlandOO. That's OOJBLAND. If you call in and I hang up on you, it's because I got somebody else on the line. If I do pick up, you're going to wait. You're going to hear us talking. Wait till I call on you, and then you can ask your questions. But let's go ahead and get back to our guests. You still there with me, Penelope and Carole?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes, we are.
So, as you have your book, The Likely Futures, you've gotten some insight about the coronavirus from Pax, as I take it from the title of the book.
We sure have. So we can both speak to this, but maybe I can kick it off and then baton it to Carole also. Some of when we were writing Due Unto Earth, Pax kind of interrupted that process because coronavirus was something that was starting in the world, and he interrupted our writing process of this book Due Unto Earth to bring the world information about coronavirus. So it's very timely. It's information that you're not going to find in other places. It's stuff that's not on the news. So it's not kind of going over the things that we already know. When we wrote this was back in January, February. So it would have been the end of March. And a lot of these things were completely not known. So since that time, a lot of what Pax told us came true. Things that were completely not on the radar have since come true. And then other things haven't even been looked at yet. But because history has proven so much of this, we're, really hoping that people pay attention to the information in the likely future. So it's 2 small books, The Likely Future, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And some of the main key points I think it's important is that Pax says that the virus inserts into the cells of the body something called anemones. That's ANENOMIES, anemones. Anemones are latent buds that will go dormant and rebloom in time. So now we're hearing about people who have caught coronavirus for a second time, and there's these rare cases around the world. Well, it's, Pax says it's not that they've caught the virus again, but that it never left their body. It was not a recovery, just a remission, if you will. And so that the virus will go dormant and then bloom. So anemones is a bloom. So you think of, a flower that, goes dormant, maybe dries up at certain times and then blooms again and then, blooms again. In the case of a flower, that would be seasonally. And Pax says that what will instigate the reblooming of the virus in the body is just time alone. Nothing in particular, not the seasons, just the passing of time. And that can happen again. And he speaks of 2 and 3 blooms.
That's a terrifying thought for people. I mean, I have friends that have had the coronavirus. I mean, it's, a family, and, when they're the older family member that we know of that has it, it's concerning. I'm not so much worried about it getting it myself, even though I have a friend, she's only a couple years older than me, and she's been nothing but exhausted ever since then. And it's hard for her to do anything. And she's only a couple years older than me. I'm 41.
Yes.
She's like 43, and it's been exhausting for her. I had a kid that was 20 and got it, and he said it was all right, except that I couldn't smell or taste very well for a little while. I met one lady who's 10 months later, or not 10 months later, but 10 weeks later, was still couldn't smell or taste right. It seems like, we've had a lot of flu bugs. I got the swine flu when it happened. I mean, I had a 103 fever and was hallucinating, but there's something different about this. And some people are like, oh, it's because it's made in a lab, or, I don't know where it came from, but there's something different about it. Well, what's Pax say on that?
That it did originate at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and that it was designed to be created to be a weapon of war, to create a defenseless opponent. And it was a macro method of decreting a defenseless opponent.
That's my thought.
Yes, and Pax was very clear to also, give the caveat that it that the intention at the time that the virus escaped the laboratory was not intended to get out to the population at that time, but it was developed as a weapon of war, and that it was accidentally released to the population by a female lab worker. So he very specifically says it was a young female working at the lab who wished to do her best work, and sounds like a perfectionist, and something went wrong with the laboratory procedure. And this is with bats. So the virus had been developed. The coronavirus from nature was developed in the lab into this Frankenstein-like supervirus. So it's not the coronavirus in bats that you would find in the wild, but something very different. This is why it's, a novel coronavirus. It's very different. It's highly contagious. It has all of these characteristics of this, Frankenstein virus. So she made a mistake in laboratory protocol, and she was in fear of getting in trouble. I mean, we're talking like grave trouble.
Well, it's China. They don't mess around.
Yes.
You just disappear.
You got that right. So Pax says that she disposed of the laboratory subject animals in order to cover her tracks, to cover up the mistake that she made. She botched the procedure is what happened. So she needed to dispose of the botched. Very specific. And there's so much more in the likely future books on this. So he says that, her life has been changed. She has this massive guilt over her, obviously. So she took the laboratory subject animals and released them to a local wet market. So when we can trace it back, there was always this, missing link in the process, and they trace it back to the wet market, which, by the way, is right next door, kind of down the street from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It's right there. And they trace it back to that, but then they still hadn't found patient one, patient, they call it patient the very first. They can patient zero. They can kind of find the next 2, 3 patients and it comes out of that wet market, but that patient zero was this kind of missing link. Well, Pax says indeed it did start at the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
That's really interesting. I mean, we, as United States, we gave them samples. I mean, watch, YouTube's going to take this so down, but we gave them samples of the coronavirus, not the one we're particularly infected with now, but could have been mutated from that, is what a lot of people have been talking about. You know, we gave it to them as a partnership and a study, and we were warned too that there was problems with the Wuhan lab. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting if they do ever discover. I doubt they will. I think things are just being covered up. But if they ever did discover that and they found out it was just like Pax said, man, that would be so. I mean, there's no way anybody you would know that. You know, I mean, there's no way Carole could just know that, and it would be so revealing.
Well, the book is full of these things that, you know, Carole wouldn't know because it's, you know, coming from another source, but it has been proven in so many different instances from the Likely Future books where Pax said that he spoke about that there would be outbreaks in meat processing plants and animals in confinement and the, you know, the pigs in the slaughterhouses, and now it's the minks. And he spoke about this before it ever happened.
At the beginning of the show about the zombie minks.
Yeah, well, that, you know, what Pax says about the animals in confinement is that it's the fear hormones of the animals afraid of their death that causes the virus to be made worse. It's more lethal and it's more contagious, set off by two specific types of hormones. One is fear hormones and the other is growth hormones. We can get to that. But the fear hormones is when they talk on the news about meat processing plants, this is actually a slaughterhouse. That's just a nice way to say. So the animals they're in fear of their death. It's a bad place. It's a bad place. There's fear hormones emitted. So it's cross contamination. So I know at the beginning of the show, you were speaking with one of your co-hosts, Jamie, and there was the idea of, you know, how is it, you know, contagious back and forth and where did that come from? It's like this big mess. Well, it's cross contaminated between humans and people. We know that, you know, started in the bats, went to humans. So in the case of the slaughterhouses, humans, the workers are bringing it in as it's traveled around the world, you know, from human to human. They brought it into the, you know, their place of work. Then it gets contaminated to the animals. What happens then is because of the fear hormones being released inside the body of the animals, this isn't like in the air. This is what's happening within the body of the animal. And that, you know, the virus now is in their cells, and the fear hormone exacerbates that. It makes it worse and makes it more contagious. So now it spreads through all the pigs or all the minks or whatever the case is, and then back to the people. Wow. So yes, and now it's mutating as it spreads around the world. It mutates in the body, and there's many strains of the virus.
Oh yeah, well, you know, it's interesting to see about the meat factories. As a paranormal investigator, I've had a number of people come to me about two different locations that were former meat packing plants, meat processing, animal slaughterhouses, basically. Yeah. And there's a lot of, you can feel the energy. There's a lot of weirdness that happens at these places. And you wonder, all the animals killed there, is that open some portal, or it's the energy, it just created just that permanent bad energy there.
Yes. Well, in the viralenology work that I do, one of the things to be studied is the factory farming industry, and that this creates negative energy. So you think of a cancer tumor. So the heavy viral energy is like a mass in these places, and would also be the case in places of war. You think of the Middle East and all these things. Right. So I had run this theory by Pax in our book, Do Unto Earth, and he validated that and said, yes. And not only that, but these masses of heavy viral energy can be seen from space. And so I was like, what can be seen from space? And he clarified, be seen in you know, he said actually intuited, felt might be a better description, that he's referring to people that can see energy would be able to actually physically see or sense this energy from space. That's how large these pockets of energy are.
Oh, wow. We do have somebody that's been waiting on the phone line I want to get to. We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How was your turkey day, by the way?
It was good. I miss not being with family, but my wife cooked a heavy meal, and there's still a lot of leftovers. So I have to look at the bright side. I got a lot of leftover turkey, which I love.
Hey, I think the same way too, man. Trust me, we had a social distancing Thanksgiving, so it was an interesting experience. So I have 2 questions tonight. I'll keep them nice and short. Penelope, Carole, it's very nice to meet both of you.
You too, Zach.
Thank you.
I wanted to go back to a previous comment that was made earlier in the show, particularly in regards to like a lot of technology, like social media, that it really has diminished really our human capabilities psychically. Now, with anything like social media, it can become an addiction on that. So really, yeah, I can definitely see where people just become obsessed over with social media, and it pretty much controls their life. But on the same side as well, without social media, I wouldn't have met all the wonderful people over here at Paranormal Soup. So my question is, according to Pax, what is the balance?
Oh, great question.
That's needed to stop social media and other technology from becoming an addiction?
I think this would be great for Carole. I just am going to preface this by saying that it's not the social media that's the bad here. It's, how we use technology. So just always being glued to our phone is what Pax was speaking of specifically in the Do Unto Earth book. Children, young people, just being kind of glued to that and therefore not being able to communicate with someone in person. So there's a problem. But, social media is not a bad thing. We all know all the great things, and especially during this COVID time, all the great ways that we can connect online and are. So I think that's, it's what we make of it, really, what we make of that technology and how we utilize it. What's our intention with that?
Okay, cool. And then my second question, because really the concept of Pax, this is brand new to me. I've never heard of that before. And so I was listening into exactly really what this concept is. So my second question to you is Pax the same entity or group or collective known as God? Why or why not?
Carole, I'll let you.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. It's a really good question. No, Pax does not wish to be known as God. He has, in fact, referred to himself, among other things, as a God being, and the collected wisdom and consciousness. It's perhaps an individual choice how you would think about this. What does God mean to the individual person? For some, it's a wise one. For others, it's a biblical person and, not to be messed with. So it's pretty much an individual call. But Penelope and I understand that his description of himself is as a God being, not the God himself.
He actually makes that clarification very specifically. And I said in the book, so God and God being have a different connotation. And he says, yes, like now you're getting it. And the idea was that, we can go wrong with the term God, that some religions use the term Allah. Other people choose to say, the universe, the divine wisdom source. And some religions, some people choose God. So it's a name. And that's also where Pax came from. So once he clarified, and we just use he because Carole has always thought of and spoke of Pax as the he, but it really is a we, a collective. However, after he explained that, we are what you would call, he was kind of speaking to, like you, Penelope, would call that, God being. Someone else might say Allah. So it was just an important thing with our unity, that it was so important that this not be divisive. Like the last thing that he wants to do is start another religion or be divisive or exclusive to any group. So that was made clear. And then Pax came from, I said, well, that's a long description. We are one with the universe, not the universe alone, the God being. Can you give us a moniker that we can use for the purpose of these books? And he says, refer to me as Pax, and it means peace. Does that help?
Those are all the questions. Yeah, I know that was all the questions I had. Thank you, ladies, so much for answering them. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Have a great night, Zach.
Hey, you too, brother. You take it easy.
Well, Zach, that was a great first question there too from him about, what's the balance between technology? I mean, he's right. I mean, I would not have this show or met Jamie and Rob or Zach or all the great people in my chat room if it wasn't for technology. There's great things about it. I mean, me and my wife talk about watching our 9-year-old son doing virtual school and all that. I'm like, man, if this would have happened when we were kids, we would have been screwed. We'd have been. I would have loved being stuck at home. I've always been agoraphobic. I loved staying at home. I would have totally loved that. But wouldn't have had the technology. I wouldn't have had any online outreach. Like my son's getting on every day with his best friend and playing Roblox and getting on Google Hangouts video calls and at least have something that they can have some kind of social interaction. So that in that way the technology is great right now. It's a lifesaver.
No, it's more than great. It's necessary, and it's a mental health release, and it allows us to still be connected during this time. So it's great. It just yes, it definitely comes back to some people use it like a drug, and the incessant looking on the phone. We know people who do this. The constant looking at Instagram feed and did anyone message me? So it can be used to numb a person in the same way as you would take a drink or a drug in some way. So just to be mindful of that.
Oh, I've been very mindful of it when we went into lockdown, and I just had to shut it off. You know what I'm saying? And I've done that late. I mean, I told people on Facebook, I'm moving to Parler, but I probably, the thing is, the honesty is I've had a number, I'm MeWe, I'm on Parler, or I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, but you know what? I'm not going on any of them, hardly at all. I do it to advertise for the show. People are posting stuff on Facebook. I'm not seeing it. Just so you people know, I don't see a lot. I don't get on much anymore. I put my phone away from me because I can see that it's an addiction. I don't want it. I don't want that in my life. There's
so time consuming.
You talk about energy vampires. Okay. I've gotten myself sucked into these stupid arguments on Facebook. I'm done doing that. I am done.
I know.
And there's a great show I love. It was a movie, but it's a show called What We Do in the Shadows. And it's about these vampires that live in a house together. And one of the vampires isn't your normal vampire. He's an energy vampire. And there's this one episode I think is so telling to what we're in now is he gets his energy by annoying people. Sucking them into his conversation. And just draining energy. And his eyes glow blue when he does this to people. It's hilarious. The comedian who does it, it's hilarious. But there's one point where he discovers online, what's this online stuff? And and he just starts getting into all these trolling people and getting all this energy from all these people. He's getting sucked into his evilness on trolling them. I'm I really feel there are those people out there. There are these energy vampires that are sucking in these from a chat conversation. They're sucking in that negative energy they just got from you.
Yeah, in my first book, The Magic of Viralenology, I call that the energy thirsty monster, and I even have a little diagram in the book. And if you see someone taking energy from the next person, later what happens is they have a low. It's like a sugar high and then a sugar low. So they take the energy and then it will never fill them up.
Right.
So that kind of negativity just never fills you up, and so now you're hungry again. So that depletion part comes, and that's where you look at people who are abusive to their spouse, abusive to their children, abusive to animals. It's this, wanting that surge and wanting to steal the energy from those who are less powerful, because that's just how it works. And then when they're not fed by that, because it will never fuel them, this will never be a source of fuel, then they get depleted. And then, it's a worse cycle. It goes around and around because they actually get worse the next time.
I think, a good Star Wars reference to this is Emperor Palpatine. He's I can feel the dark side in you. He's feeding off of it. That's what I feel like these people are. They're like Emperor Palpatine. I can feel the dark side. You want to kill me. I've trolled you on Facebook. You want to strike me down right here. There's the people out there. They're the Sith, and they're trying to get you to just go to your lowest hated point. They want you to hate them. They want you to yell and scream. And, they want to get under your skin. And
they want that reaction.
Yeah, and they are getting a kick out of it. I've just stopped feeding it. People comment something negative on a post I make, which I don't make many anymore. I either block them, kick them off, or I'm just done communicating with them. There's no reason.
Jason, I think that you're putting your phone away as you are now, consciously. You're wise enough to know that you have to create a space for the good things you want to do in your life. And it's just the way of it. When people fill their every waking hour with their devices, there is no space available. That's all they're doing, is looking for communication of any kind. And in order to grow and evolve and, grow spiritually, you need to make a space for it in your life. And really glad to hear you're doing that.
Well, it's getting hard for people because their phone is their only outreach when they're stuck at home, especially in places that are completely locked down almost. The online community is your only outreach. And I get that. But that's what I fear, is that now it's going to just be even worse. People are going to get even more sucked in, addicted to this, because this is all they got. This is all they got. I mean, my kids can't go out and play, My 4-year-old, he goes, I want to see grandma, and gets on the phone with her, and it's great. That's great. Like he's on Skype video showing her everything, like great. We have the technology, but that's the thing. We have a whole generation are growing up in a virtual world because that's all they got right now.
And it's a good thing they do have it. Boy, Zach didn't know what a can of worms he was opening, right?
Right. He always opens up a can of worms on the show. It's great.
Yeah. Oh, it's a really good thing, technology. It's just a fantastic thing. But, what you're talking about, the people that want to criticize or kind of pick a fight on social media, that's so hard. I have a girlfriend who, her daughter, teenager, and dealing with this all the time,
Oh, yeah.
And some other girl in high school, and it says something to her on social media, and it's embarrassing. It's in front of everyone because it's a public thing. So it's so hard to mitigate at that age.
Oh, it's totally different now. I mean, you think about when we were kids, we had, you had bullies, and you had people, I had bullies, that bullied me in grade school, and that it's a whole new level now for these kids. It's all for the whole world to see. You can be bullied online. Totally, it's terrifying as a parent. I'm not gonna.
Yes.
I'm not. I have. We have one really close family friends that their 13-year-old son's got a phone, and I swear it's been nothing but a headache. I don't want I want to keep my kids away from social media and having a phone as long as I possibly can. And yes, I do let them play video games. My kid has his own video game channel, but that's what he loves and he does. But I don't want him communicating with people online. So for kids he really knows. And I don't want him getting on any social media as long as I possibly can, because the fear of what it does to these kids mentally.
So true.
Ridicule and just,
leads to suicides.
Yes, that's what I fear. As a parent, it scares the hell out of me. And we have a whole other force. We get into the Viralenology, or you want to, this energy. I think when we can get back to here, talking about the coronavirus, but I feel like it is out of Ghostbusters, and you choose the form of your destructor, that we kind of brought this virus on us with this buildup, this boiling up of negative energy just being fed on the internet.
Well, in that, you can think of breaking down an immune system. So whether or not we brought it on per se, I would say that we can kind of say that it's logical to think that as you break down your own force field, to put it in the Star Trek and Star Wars terms, that personal power, that energy that is your being, as you break that down. And so with studying Viralenology, you learn that your energy field is permeable. It's semi-permeable. And that is why the viral energy can affect you, because your being is permeable. It flows through. And so osmosis is the process by which molecules pass through a semi-permeable membrane from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So that's what we're dealing with here. Not attraction, but a passive osmotic transference of energy. The highly vibrating energy, the pure light energy, or the heavy stuff, full of toxins and pollution. So going back to, children and teenagers on social media, I would say that one thing we can do is to, dilute that with the osmosis of nature. So meditate in nature, go for a walk in nature, and you will find that your energy balances with the energy of nature that is already perfectly vibrating, because that's what it does. It already has that perfect pure vibration. And so if you're looking to, dilute some of these, influences that we have these days, one of those things that we can do is to, go for a walk in nature, meditate in nature, do what you can to make the choices. So that's the active part. And then the passive part is just, what are you surrounding yourself with? So if what you're surrounding yourself with is a lot of negativity in the news, negativity with other kids at school, you have to actively make choices to dilute that.
Well, just people in your life you have to cut out. I've learned that a long time ago.
Yes.
There's, me and my wife talked about, there was friends of ours that we've had that we just cut out of our life because they were that energy vampire. In one way or another, they were like a poor me person that's like, poor me, and they draw you into their drama. And you realize that it's a vicious circle they make for themselves, and they just want to draw as many people into it as possible and be involved in their bull crap. But they feed off of it. And I've had to cut people out of my life. And like, if you're going to be a drama person, I don't want it in my life. I'm going to cut you out. It's that simple. I do. That's how I run my show. We don't do drama on here. Or I don't do it, because that's why I don't do a political show. I know a lot about politics. I was going to be a political science major, but I hate it. And I don't want to do it as a show because it just puts me in a bad place, puts me in a real bad place. I come on here to talk about spiritual things and cosmic ideas and open our minds to new concepts. That's great. I love that, but
that's a good choice.
I have a lot to say about politics, but I don't, because we're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, it turns into a fight. You can't win these days when people have such polarized ideas.
Exactly. I'm always in the middle of the argument, so I don't make anybody happy. I don't. I usually, anybody doesn't.
You're an open mind.
Yeah, basically. And that's what scares me though about where we're at. We're becoming so polarized. That's part of the energy field I feel that's going on, is pushing people in two different directions, neither good. And where are we going to land? How are we going to get out of this? How do we break from this? Does Pax have any insight on that?
Well, just that Pax has said that light will win over darkness. And so we have to take some solace in that, and that everything is a choice. That we do have a new administration coming. So in terms of the political side of things, change is happening, and change is inevitable always. So sometimes we have to, get through these times as best we can, but we are on the precipice of something new, and people on both sides are so sick of arguing. I talk to my friend groups, and there are people on each side of this. Obviously, there are. The United States is, split down the middle with this. So we have mixed within our own families and friend groups, people with these very polar ideas. And they all say the same thing to me lately. Anyway, I don't know what you're hearing, Jason and Carole, but I would say that I'm hearing from everybody across the board. They're just so sick of the negativity. They're so sick of the fighting. And so we can at least have that in common.
Well, but I said this, I made a whole long statement about this back in 2016, right before the election. I said, because I could feel the energy then when we were coalescing to. And I just try to get across to people is like, you're fighting over turds. Every single one of them. And that includes Trump and Biden. They're both turds. They're both crappy people. And don't put your hope in either one. And stop fighting over turds. Stop trying to defend one turd over the other turd, because they're turds. That's it. It's just that simple. None of those people are going to save you. Not worth your time. Not worth your friendships to be lost. Not worth your the negativity.
It's so not worth the negativity and losing. No.
People have to save themselves. Pax believes in us very strongly. He believes we're going to be fine as a human race. His message throughout the Do Unto Earth book, it keeps cropping up. He wants people to trust in themselves. He wants people to understand they have inner strength if they will simply call for it. They have the ability to make changes close to home or globally if they're motivated to do so. And his message is constant. We're going to be fine. We just simply need to be open, trust in ourselves, and know that the decisions that we make for ourselves and our family are based on what we believe is right and good, and to go forward in the belief that we're going to do the best and be the best and be the change that we want to see.
That's why I've always been a Star Trek fan. I love Star Wars, but I will announce it on the show. I am more of a Star Trek fan than I am a Star Wars fan. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But I'm a big time Star Trek fan.
If you had to pick.
Because it's a hope. It's a hope. And Gene Roddenberry is had a beautiful vision for the future, in my opinion. Some people are like, oh, you're talking about socialist Star Trek society. No, I'm not. I'm just saying it's a beautiful idea that humans would move beyond the idea of materialism and to better themselves. That's a beautiful idea. How can you say that's not?
And the search for knowledge, you know, and that is, we ask Pax, what's the meaning of life? And it's to share wisdom, our own purpose, creation, to create. But the, purpose of life in general as a whole is this, spreading of knowledge. And so it came back to, so that's why our ancient ancestors wanted to spread these. He calls them star seeding. So we are star seeds. We were star seeded. And so spreading these seeds of life and wisdom across the universe. And he actually says this is how the expansion of the universe happened. Spreading wisdom, spreading knowledge, spreading life across the universe is the expansion that creates the expansion. And he said, not the Big Bang. He said bigger bangs have happened.
Yes.
Well,
did.
Like, what?
Well, I always, ever since I was a little kid, I've been, since I at a young age, I think it was 10, I found my mom's Chariots of the Gods book by Eric von Daniken. I've been a big ancient aliens believer that somehow, we were put here or genetically manipulated or whatever. I believe there's an alien source to our presence here, I'm agnostic in belief. I question everything, but in general sense, if I had to make a call or a bet, I'd say, yeah, aliens were probably involved.
Makes sense.
But
right.
But at the same time too, even if you don't have to have alien ships or physically here, if there's some kind of spirit world, well, there's alien spirits. There's spirits, everywhere, and time and space is totally different for them. That there's whole other level we might not understand about how souls end up on planets and where we come from and our whole purpose here.
There's so much we don't understand.
And right now in society, I really early on in the show, you talked about the viral energy of like a smile. Right now that's a bit hard. People don't see a smile. You're wearing a mask. But that's what I'm saying. Is the energy we're in right now? I'm hoping Pax is right. We're gonna lead some, because what I want to see the Star Trek society. I want to see us. Captain Picard's my captain from the Star Trek, series. He always
Picard's mine too.
Yeah, yeah. Because he was the epitome of what I believe. Like I want to become. I want our society to become like Picard, and
honorable.
Like looking, fascinated by archaeology and the stars, and like just looking for knowledge. And you'd always talk about, we don't care about the material things. That's what I'm hoping we get to. But why that happens in Star Trek? For people not Trekkies, I'm sorry, it's trekking out here, but there was a World War III. Okay. They had to go through a bunch of crap before they got to that beautiful utopian Star Trek society. Of course, you never really see the Earth, what's going on Earth, but you guess it's utopia because they're all out in space and doing all that. What took them there was technology. In the end, technology does play a role. They have, teleporters to, instantly transport people, holograms. They have food easily made from a machine, like boom, puts it there. What do they call it? Oh God, it's Trekkie. I can't even think of the name of the device.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But the technology, if the technology is there, we could possibly get to that point too.
Let's talk about teleportation. So, first of all, there's a lot of parallels with what you're talking about with what's going on now. So you had to get in Star Trek, you have to get to the World War III to have the utopia on the other side. So we are going through, the downside right now, and there will be an upside to this. We're going to learn a lot from it. The idea of that, technology, we have to have it to move forward. Again, that we will have the technology when we evolve. And so you think about, well, how can you spread, a smile contagiously and virally when we're wearing masks? Well, there is something we can do, and it's global viral contemplation. So the idea of that our thoughts have energy, that our thoughts are an energy form, and that intention is everything. So we can meditate or ponder or contemplate, whatever word, works for each individual, on the wellness of Earth. So we can send out healing vibrational thoughts. That's something that we can do that is viral, that goes out into the world, that is healing energy. And if we do that together, so one of the initiatives of the Viral Energy Institute is global viral contemplation, and Pax really supported this idea and said that we're going to be doing this, on scale. And so that was, really exciting to hear that kind of look into the future. But the idea is that many people could come together, and that could be done online, with the technology, that we would contemplate the wellness of Mother Earth, contemplate the unity, contemplate, the light winning. So there are things that we can do. There's definitely things that we can do, but teleportation, Pax says, is a thought process. There'll be no instrumentation required. There's not a teleporter, as in Star Trek. There's no equipment needed. And it's not a technology. It is a thought process. Isn't that wild?
Well, you're talking like we evolved to the Super Saiyan. I don't know. We evolved to something where we're able to teleport ourselves to another location.
Yes, as the Mayans did. They teleported themselves out.
Oh,
there's much to talk about. One Earth is just full of it.
Well,
yes.
That's on a soul level. Like when I'm talking the replicator, thank you. I don't know why my Star Trek, I'm a big Star Trek fan.
The
I can think of
replicator,
replicator. For people to be able to, this is the thing. Like people right now, I had my early 20s where I got really into deep, into meditation and trying to see auras and like getting all real spiritual and all that. And then I got knocked down a level. Life, bills, almost got foreclosed on in my house. But that's the thing. It made me realize this is why everybody else isn't so enlightened as you think you are, because they don't have time for it. They got to feed the family. They got to, work, 40, 50, 60 hours a week. We're in this constant struggle to survive, pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. It's hard to take time. You got children and you got bills to pay to get to that center, to think about these things, to be more enlightened spiritual. I don't have the time for that. I got to pay my bills.
Well, are you kidding, Jason? Look what you do with Paranormal Soup. This is a contemplation. You could call it meditation. You could call it contemplation. A shower is a meditation. A walk on the beach is a meditation. So what it is for you, but this is what you're doing, is a spiritual practice. It is a contemplation. It is a spiritual evolution for you and for so many people that you're affecting. But for the average person looking for time, and especially, gosh, when you have kids and life is so busy, just a moment, you could take 30 seconds of a mental, spiritual timeout, and that creates the space. Carole brought that up earlier. You're creating these like little pockets of space. And in that space, you can connect to that portal of, the divine. You open that portal in those little spaces. So even if we all have 30 seconds, we all have shower time. There's just moments. And if that's all you can capture is these little moments, that's okay.
You know what I've been doing ever since we came back? I came back to work after being on furlough for a while, and I work retail. Is on my breaks, I'd go eat my lunch, and then I have about 20, 30 minutes left, and I just lay back in my car and just try to let everything go from my mind, all the crap, because like I said, I feel like I'm empathic, so I'm picking up on people, and stuff while I'm working. And people are like, I don't know how you take a power nap like that. I'm like, it's kind of a power nap, but I'm conscious, like I'm there, and I'm just focusing on my breath, just to try to let go of all the crap I'm picking up off of people. I think
that's so valuable. Good for you.
But that's the thing. There's so many people like I said, I don't judge anybody anymore on not contemplating the spiritual. Like I used to think, why doesn't people have the questions I have? Why do people not think about these things, the big picture and spirituality? They're in this cycle of survival, and materialism.
There's also a certain amount of fear involved.
Right. Oh yeah. Big time. Oh yeah. I definitely see that. I mean, when I try to tell, I've been pretty much open now. I mean, I tell people I have to shamelessly promote the show. I'll tell anybody I do a show on the radio, Paranormal Soup, but I tell people, there's some people are like, oh yeah, really? And they'll tell me an interesting, experience they had. I love that. But there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I'm not talking to you. I don't want any part of it, because it scares them.
Or challenges them.
Yeah. And there's always been a part of me that just doesn't get it. I'm like, how do you people not have these questions? How do you people not think about these things? Or how do you go through your life not realizing all this stuff going on around you? but that
Yeah.
seems to be the most people. And I hate thinking that way because I don't want to think I'm better than anybody else. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I don't know why. I do know why I'm wired this way from my past life experiences, but I'm
That's
wired
it.
a certain way
Old,
ever
right?
since I was born to ask these questions, to be the agnostic a-hole that I am.
You're a seeker.
And you talk about the show being a meditation. It totally is. I mean, I go to a whole other state when I do this show. I feel like I channel something. It's just crap flows out of my mouth. I don't know what I'm channeling. It ain't great sometimes.
Yeah, you do. You are channeling.
Yeah.
It's a
It's a
weird
huge
experience
gift.
after the show. I'll tell you that. I do feel like I do channel something sometimes.
I'm sure you do. And it's a great gift for your listeners that you do this.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now, when it comes to the coronavirus, I mean, we're going to come up to another commercial break here soon, and we'll kind of like leave a little hanger here for people. What is PAX suggesting or telling us that we should do to, I don't know, defeat it or handle it?
Mm-hmm. Let's leave you with a huge cliffhanger then. So PAX says that the drug that was used for polio, that was successful on the one-time disease polio that's now been, cured, I guess, is where to look. He says that the polio reduction methods that were successful at that time, to have our scientists look at that when we're developing these vaccines, we need to be cognizant of how many different strains of the virus has mutated. So vaccine for one, but maybe not for others. And so looking for a universal vaccine, he said to look to the polio drugs.
See, now you wonder if anybody is doing that, in the medical field. If anybody,
we hope they are. We hope that someone's listening to Paranormal Soup at some point and pass the message on. But he says that it'll be a neurological interrupter. So the drugs that he's referring to are neurological interrupters. And here's another one. He says that once found, that they will also be proven to be successful for Parkinson's disease, another neurological disease that we know, we have no cure for.
Right.
Very little about.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. I mean, well, this is a thing though. Everybody's talking about the vaccines they're pushing through right now, getting ready to release to the public. People don't realize this ain't the end of it. You're not going to just get the one vaccine and be done. They're talking you're going to be getting this yearly, like the flu vaccine. We hope
the efficacy is there, but we can only go off of what we're hearing from PAX, and that he has been proven to be correct on everything else that he has said, that history has proven what is contained in the books, the likely future. Those are the books that we have that deal with coronavirus. And it's just now, for us, for Carole and I, it's just, you can't be denied at this point. And so one of these, big pieces of information that, nobody knows yet is this, looking to the drugs that were successful for polio.
We also have another big piece of information, and it's regarding the vaccines, because as we've discussed earlier, the virus, while it goes dormant in the body, it's mutating while it's dormant. It will rebloom a second time and often a third time. And as it travels through the body, affecting varying organs that are much more severe now than originally believed by medical science, it's mutating. So we have to ask ourselves, what vaccine developed now, before medical science is fully aware of this mutating factor, is going to be efficient?
Right.
Which strain, if I can use that word, of this COVID-19 is it going to be effective against? Because it's not leaving the body. It's mutating and it's visiting other organs. And we're now learning of people with brain damage. And all severities and degrees of severity of organic failures. So while we must support what science is doing with the developing vaccines, we must also question. It's like when you get a flu vaccine, it's a bit of a crapshoot which strain of the flu you're going to get, and is it going to be effective?
That's what I'm saying. It's going to end up being the seasonal flu shot. Now it'll be the seasonal flu and corona shot because they can't keep up with the strains. That's the problem I see that we're going to end up facing. And I don't get flu shots. I haven't done that. So I'm not one for the shot or vaccine. I'm not against vaccines. You talk about polio. That was a massive effort to come up with that vaccine. And if there's something there, I hope somebody's looking at it. I'm not saying I won't take the vaccine when it comes, but I have my doubts about how effective it's going to actually be. I mean, maybe it's the pessimist in me, but I just don't feel like we're going to really nail it. When you talk about it incubating or staying inside the body. So when it comes back and it's a new mutated strain, so somebody who had the coronavirus could now be sick with it again and then start spreading it to other people who've never had it at all.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And that you're still contagious. So even between the blooms where you might test negative, you can still be contagious. So not ruling that out at all. You said that you had a friend who had the virus and had the loss of taste and smell. So I just wanted to say you can give your friend some good news that according to Pax, the loss of those sensory perceptions, the taste and smell, indicates one of the less volatile strains of the virus that would not affect the lungs.
Well, yeah. See, those people were all right. It's other people that suddenly. That's what's so weird about this virus. The way it just goes different ways. It affects people cognitively.
Because it's not one. It's not one disease anymore. So COVID-19 is, the name of a disease, and 19 coming from the 2019 when it, came out. But there are so many now. As it has mutated, there are many diseases now, and all have different symptoms.
Well,
I think there's a potential for some insight. There are 5 different groups studying polio right now that's running fairly rampant in at least 3 African countries. One of those groups is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And what they're doing is they're funding research into how to eradicate polio. There never really was a cure for it. There was a vaccine against it. Right. And they're looking seriously for a cure. And Penelope and I were discussing the connection between the work they're doing in Africa now and the information Pax gave us about the connection to
polio,
finding something that's going to help us through the COVID situation by getting an effective vaccine. If the science that's working in Africa and the science that's working in the US can put their heads together and compare notes, that there could be an effective change on the horizon.
Let's hope. We're going to go to our last commercial break, and the phone lines are still open. 219-230-4444, Skype ID OOJBland00. Call in with your questions, get insight from Pax or what they've learned from Pax, and or share your own experiences. We will be back after this short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDiv.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college. I've got a family to support and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the cold case files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re,
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, we've been talking to our guests Penelope Jean Hayes and Carole Serene Borgens. They are authors of Due Unto Earth, It's Not Too Late. God, I hope it's not too late, right? And then also Likely Futures. They're 2 volumes of spiritual advice on the coronavirus pandemic. We talk about that. Hopefully YouTube hasn't taken us down for that. Why suppress the conversation, YouTube? We're just openly talking about, what a spirit I have to say about that. It's not fake news. Not fake news. No. But that's the theme. This is why I do the show. We can have these conversations, open minds, talk about these concepts, and what we could do to better ourselves in our lives in this weird world we're living in, this viral energy we're living in. Lines are open. You can call in. There's 2 phone lines you can call in. It's 219-230-4444. That's 219-230-4444 or Skype ID 00JBland00. Call in. Ask your questions. Hopefully you don't get the answer number 42 from Pax. Carole's not doing any readings from Pax, but we can learn from her experience of the questions they've asked. So you want to get some insight, call in. But let's go ahead and get back to our guests. All right, let's see. You still there with me, Penelope and Carole?
Oh, yes.
So we're talking about what the polio vaccine that he said. Now he's saying this is somewhere an insight that we need to give, but is he giving us, is this like a future prediction that somebody will definitely discover this through the polio vaccine, or is he saying that's something we need to look into?
He's saying
the
it's
latter.
a place to look.
Okay.
Yeah, he's saying please look in the direction of what was successful with polio, and there's a component to that. Penelope can explain more.
Yeah, he also says that when we talked about the origins of the virus coming from China and specifically the Wuhan Institute of Virology, he says that the reason why this is important to know is that the Chinese, these scientists know a whole lot more about this particular virus, this, Frankenstein virus, because it was created there. And that if we worked in collaboration with them, that we could get further along in this process of finding that universal vaccine. So that was another kind of breadcrumb, if you will, that we really should be working in collaboration with them.
Real quick, I got Marcus trying to call in. You're calling in on the wrong Skype line, Marcus. I'm trying to call you on my other one. You call in if you're calling in on Skype, you want to call in on the OOJBland00 Skype line. Hopefully we can get Marcus on that line. I'm trying to get a hold of him. He's always a great caller. But yeah, with China, I'm not a.
Tonight, Zach, I'm glad you were able to stop in. And
you're not muted, Jamie. I'm getting echo from you. There you go. Okay.
Hi, Jamie.
She's waving
Rob.
at you.
Hi.
We do have Marcus online. I'm gonna get you in 1 second, Marcus. Hang on. Now where was my thought? Okay, China. Okay, maybe it's because of my past life. There's a little maybe instance of why I have like a loathing for the Chinese government, not the people. I have actually huge interest. I've always had an interest in the East, in the culture, and but the government is something I feel is an existential threat to everybody. Not just because it's communist, it's a totalitarianism, the stifling of free speech, their social credit system that's making people disappear off the streets if they get too low of a social credit score because they didn't bow down to the government or whatever. That stuff scares me. And with technology, it makes it much more easier for these tyrannical governments to control us.
Yes.
Does Pax have any messages about because you heard the conspiracy theories, New World Order, and stuff like that. Any insight into that?
Well, I mean, I asked about globalization and Due Unto Earth, and he's not a fan of globalization. So
I like that,
to have, the distinction of not to make one world government, this would be very, very dangerous. He has said that.
Good for Pax. I like Pax. I had a guest on, a lovely lady a couple weeks ago, and a medium, and she was all like, we got to come together, we got to change, and we need an amendment to the Constitution, and we need to join the world. And I'm like, no, I'm not all for the globalization. I don't want it.
Good luck.
Right. Because I fear big tyrannical governments with too much power, and now technology to help them back it up. That's
Yep.
one of my
Absolutely.
biggest fears of the future. All right. Well, let's get to
When
Marcus.
will we learn from history?
We don't, and they don't teach history in school, but that's a whole other conversation. Hey, Marcus, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in. Or I called you, but still.
Not a problem. So, well, this technology device is interesting, and the older I get, the more interesting it becomes. Like, where can I find the neck of this thing so I can wrap my one good hand around it and strangle it?
What technology?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Especially when it doesn't
Right.
work.
Yes. Thank you. And I also very, very much share your concerns about the changes I've seen in my 72 years. I developed an interest in politics when I remember at the age of 8 reading that Eisenhower had won a second term as president, and something inside me said, okay, we're still safe. We can survive this. And then in 63, the writing was on the wall when the powers that be, call them breakages limited, I do in my book, decided that Kennedy was not someone that they could work with. So they wiped him off the face of the earth and his brother Robert. And now we have had, with the brief interregnum of Ronald Reagan and now 4 years of Donald Trump, we've had people who refuse to play the Washington game because they came into it with the outsider's point of view. And what's being offered by this so-called party, the president-elect Biden, scares the living daylights out of me, because I think we might be looking at the end of anything approaching a libertarian, freedom-oriented, individual-based form of government. And all we have is a bunch of dewy-eyed dreamers, the kind of people that can sing hootenannies and protest war and stuff, but can't do a blessed thing about installing a government that works, let alone a worldwide system of freedom that works. They've been trying it, they've been talking about it, but so far it looks grim.
Yeah.
And so the pandemic thing, I think, ties into it, because it apparently is doing a very effective job of attacking the social structures and institutions that we had that were pretty strongly in support of individual freedom. For example, the National Rifle Association is now being pilloried as a criminal conspiracy, virtually. Anybody who owns a firearm for self-protection is despised as a barbarian or a wannabe cop. I've been a gun owner most of my life, and I have no interest in being a vigilante or...
Yeah, I own a gun. I don't want to ever shoot anybody. I hope I never have to use it. I've owned a gun for years. I hope I never, ever, ever have to use it, but I have it.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of like having basic survival insurance. You need insurance for your house. You need insurance for your car. Because if you don't, you will be hurt financially if things go wrong.
Well, before we run out of time, what's your question for our guest, Marcus?
I was sort of picking up on their thing. Do they think that this is actually a social crisis engineered by the Chinese or whoever, or is it actually just a freak medical crisis of a viral infection that is running away with us?
So Pax had spoken about that the virus was developed at the Wuhan Institute of Virology to be used as a weapon of war. But at the time it was released, this was an accident. So he had said that the purpose of developing this weapon of war was to create a defenseless opponent. So that does insinuate a lot of the, this social that you're talking about, weakening your opponent in this way that no one would see coming. And look at, the breadth and depth of how that has changed our civilization in these ways that are so very different than waging war, the way of, bombing and these sort of things. So there is, this socialness to that, but it wasn't meant to be released at that time. So countries are developing weapons of war, and a lot of those are biologicals, and it's not just China. So I would say overall,
I guarantee we are. I'm guarantee, even though we say we don't, I guarantee we're doing it.
Yeah. So the idea is not to point fingers. So to Marcus's question, I think, know that the intention wasn't there at this time, but yes, it was, there is the intention overall, like many governments, that they would develop, all different types of weapons. And what I find interesting, I love hearing your story that you remember Eisenhower when you were 8 years old, and to have that perspective. And I just wish and pray and hope that all people that are so polarized right now can just listen to the stories of people who have lived through history. And instead of judging and, passing judgment with a wand and just assuming that, their side is right, to just, be open to the idea that someone has the perspective they have because of the life that they lived, the things that they've seen. I would just hope that we can encourage everyone to try to, meet in the middle and look at each other as humans again.
Right. Oh, that's so important. Thank you so much, Marcus, for calling in tonight.
Thank you, sir.
You have a great night, bud.
Good night.
Well, to me, that's the biggest problem right now. Nobody wants to listen to each other. Everybody wants to get their point across, but nobody wants to look at what's it like to be in somebody else's shoes most of the time. Nobody wants to look from somebody else's perspective, like Marcus. It's been, he's 72 years on this planet. Eisenhower. I mean, nobody wants to look at history. Eisenhower, I believe, was one of the presidents that warned us of the dangers coming when he left office and gave his speech warning us about the military industrial complex, which in my opinion, has put us in many wars and still is trying to.
Of course, you do know your politics.
Oh yeah. Eisenhower, I think, when it comes down to the alien thing, I think that was also part of the alien concept too. He was trying to warn that I think he had knowledge of aliens and the existence of, according to his great granddaughter.
They all have knowledge. All the presidents.
And I think he saw the military industrial complex, private companies get control of it, of the alien technology, and knew it was a bad thing too.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
How can they leverage that information? But yeah.
But I can see where Marcus is coming from on this too. How convenient coronavirus is, because when I talked about my fears of China and their social credit score system, well, now you got Apple and Google and all them trying to put together a coronavirus credits, like a coronavirus score, like tracking you. Letting people know if somebody's nearby you has coronavirus, and then we're going to have, you're going to have to prove digitally, whatever. I had a vaccine to go to a concert. There's just all this stuff that can be used.
Yeah,
to control
does get scary. And Carole and I have experienced, just as we have put our information from the spirit world on the different social media, that some of it was censored. And it's like a really freaky thing, to be trying to simply ask people to, look at this information. The spirit world is bringing us a gift here. This is a gift, people. You don't have to take it all in. You can decide for yourself what you think of it. But to allow people to have access to information and alternative sources, that's now being censored. It's pretty scary.
It is scary, because that's exactly what China does. Their whole internet is censored. They have to.
In other countries,
yeah, they have to. The people that live in China have to figure, if they want to get information outside of the China internet, they have to figure out how to get around it to do that. And in danger to themselves, because if they get caught, they could be one of those people that get a bad social credit score for it and disappear.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have ever watched the series Black Mirror. But
no.
but it's a very it takes, you know, Black Mirror, like Nostradamus, you know, it takes a look into the future where these technologies could take us down bad roads. And there's a couple different episodes that really point to this China's social credit score system. It's like China took that as a roadmap. I'm like, it was a warning, not a roadmap. You know,
so scary.
It is, but we're doing it to ourselves. We you know, the way we are on social media, the way we are with. I hate the term when I hear it in shows or people like, I'm an influencer. What the heck? Good for you. Yeah, well, you know, I guess I'm an influencer too. Whatever. Who cares? But that's like a thing. I'm like, how, you know, like I'm a paid influencer. I'm not paid.
Yeah, it's a job now, right, Jason?
Yeah, like, okay, you're an influencer, you know, but you see what I see the path we're heading, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It scares the heck out of me. And I mean, you get way down the road, you talk about transhumanism. I'm not even getting there yet. I'm just talking about having these technological, like Facebook, Twitter. Well, when that stuff starts getting really more integrated into lives, we got chips in our head, and this stuff is totally controlled by people who have, you know, their own agendas.
Yeah.
You know, that you can just shape society however you want, you know.
And they are. And it really is scary. I mean, we should be able to have access to information and to be able to decide for ourselves what to censor for ourselves. I don't need anybody censoring it for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let us decide what information's right.
He uses the word nefarious
yeah.
quite often. And he cautions against people in groups that are among us with nefarious intentions. And, you know, it's true. It's there. And what Pax is teaching us is that the word is love. And this is what we are to aspire to. And that is globally love for our planet, for our human race, for each other. And the more we can get the teachings shared with the world, the better. But Jason, you're mentioning something that triggers me to understand that so much of the population, certainly that you deal with in your listening audience, is functioning in fear. I should say the ones that will not be your listening audience. They're functioning in fear. They don't want to know. And I think we just have to continue to do what you do, and Penelope and I do what we do, and attempt to share what we have to share with the world right now, hoping it's going to bring healing.
Well, I have to give kudos to my mom for, you know, inspiring me with her Buddhism. One of my favorite authors I got inspired to. And by the way, if anybody's trying to call in this last few minutes, you got to call in 219-230-4444 or Skype ID OOJBland00. They keep trying to call on this other line. It might be my phone system doing that. I don't know. But see if you can call in, at least on the Skype ID OOJBland00. I don't know if the phone line's doing that or not. Sorry. Anyways, one of my favorite books, my mom, well, several books written by a Buddhist monk, was Thich Nhat Hanh.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things I felt like I took the most heart to, let me see if I can call this last person while I'm trying to do this too, is Peace is Every Step. That was the book. And
yes,
to me, that if everybody could just read that little small book called Peace is Every Step, they would learn the only way you really can change the world is if you want peace, you have to take the steps for it. You can't rely on everybody else to do that. You have to take the steps for it. Now we do have one last phone call I want to get to. Hold on. We got 860 area code. Who do we got?
Hello, this is Royal in Connecticut. How are you?
Royal. Hey, thanks for calling in, bud.
How are you doing, Jason?
Doing good. Got to make it quick. We got about 10 minutes left.
Sure. Penelope and Carole, I just wanted to ask you, Pax sounds very interesting to me. I'm a big believer in God myself, but I often ask myself the question, why doesn't God just give us the answer? Like, for example, like, why doesn't he just give us the cure for cancer? If Pax is all knowing, as he sounds to me, I mean, he knows where the virus came from. He knows it even started with a woman in Wuhan. Why doesn't he just tell us directly how to get rid of it?
I actually asked this question.
Oh, okay. Because that's the thing that always bothers me is like, why doesn't God just give us the answer? Like, how do we cure cancer? How, just give it to us in one lump sum and let's be done with it. And, I don't know. That just for some reason always bothers me.
It's such a good question.
Yes,
it has a couple parts to it. I'll start, and I know Carole will have something on this too. So, the one thing is that we are extensions of the spirit world, that we are spiritual beings. And Pax explained, I asked this, I said, why don't you just give us the formula? He does tip us off, gives us the breadcrumbs. And I was specifically at that time in the book, Do Unto Earth, the line of questioning at that time was the fuel for interstellar travel at light speed.
Oh,
so
I
to
like
get
that
to other
question.
planets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he gave a ton, but it wasn't like a formula. As you're asking. And so I was like, well, why don't you just tell us? It's so important. We've got these crises. We need to, explore other places, alleviate the burden from planet Earth while we repair her, all of this. And it's just so important that we, not draw on fossil fuels anymore, continue to pollute the planet. Please give us this, the whole formula for these future fuels. And by the way, he says it will be a no fuel fuel. So much more to learn on that and Do Unto Earth. But the answer came back, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like you are the boots on the ground, that this is the creation part of your choice in this life experience, this incarnation is to, as extensions of the spirit world. The spirit world can only do so much. And then, they're giving us wisdom. You can tap into this universal wisdom source at any time if you wish to, if you have the intention to. But that we have to take action, that this is, the free will, if you will, that we have to take action and that we have the abilities to do these things. And if we're looking for that wisdom, we can tap into those sources. So, I was satisfied with that answer. And I thought, well, yeah, the spirit world wishes so much for us to make these changes. But even more so, the spirit world is asking us, encouraging us to be the change.
Right. Well, I understand that completely. It's just so frustrating. I'm sure you can understand my frustration. It's just why don't just say, what it is exactly we need to do. But maybe you're right. Maybe, we do have to make the move ourselves,
And we also got ourselves here in so many ways.
But with millions of lives at stake here, my thought process was the same as anything else, like with cancer or anything else. Why not just tell us the cure and let's be done with it?
He does talk about.
Told us that excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Pax has told us that he gives us the information that we can handle when we're ready for it. And as you can well imagine, if a spirit energy such as Pax if I were to channel him for example, or Penelope and I were doing a project and we would ask for the cure for cancer and we would be given that. Then what do we do with that? Who in their right mind, in the average world, and I say right mind because it's a different mindset from ours, is going to believe us?
Or harm you, Carole, or harm you for that information. The cancer industry is $1 billion industry. I'm just saying pharmaceutical companies would not like it.
I didn't even want to mention that because my mind doesn't go that way, but you're quite right, Jason. You're quite right, Jason. But the fact is,
very good point.
Right. It's for your own personal safety.
We have knowledge that Pax has shared with Penelope and I in the Do Unto Earth book that covers so much more than just the environment, and also the Likely Future books, which are very revealing about all aspects of the COVID-19 virus. And we're hard pressed to have the mainstream even want to hear about it.
And I will, did you say your name was Ro? I just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Royal, yes.
Royal, we have a lot of what you're asking for. I did ask about cancer, and he said that, it's in the preventative, look at what you're eating, look at the chemicals in your soil, your air, your water, kind of a no-brainer there. But, in terms of a plastic replacement, so big answers to big questions we were given in Do Unto Earth, and they weren't held back. So he said that the replacement for plastic will be found in hemp, cellulose. So everything that we're currently making out of plastic, we can instead make out of hemp, which breaks down. It's not a forever chemical as plastic is, crude oil. And also the water shortage crisis, global, and I know we've got very short on time, so I'll go quick. He says to look in the soil of the redwood trees. And in the soil of redwood trees is a magical ingredient that will purify water, that will be that can desalinate water and also take out toxins, and that we're not to touch the great stands of wisdom, but that we can, in very small doses, very carefully, and with the guidance of our First Nations people, take samples of the soil and then reverse engineer it and create that and end the water shortage crisis worldwide. These are big, right? Big.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those in Do Unto Earth.
Well, thank you, Royal, for calling in.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it. You'll have a good evening.
You too, Royal.
You too.
Thank you, Royal.
Again, it's the balance of, spirituality and technology there.
That's it.
That's it. We do need the technology. I love that you're asking Pax about warp drive. How to travel.
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding?
That'd be right up there in my top questions.
Sacred.
Oh yeah, that'd be right up there in my top questions for sure.
Of course it would. I went on for several chapters about the fuel replacements, and he gives us a ton.
Really? Oh, see that I'd be all.
Guess what? You're going to love this. Listen to this, Jason. So there's one no fuel that is the spark that gets us up into space. And then there's something else once you get into space. So think about how you wouldn't carry the fuel with you to get to faraway places. We're talking other planets. We've only been to our own moon. To go to other planets, to go at the speed of light. So one fuel gets you up. And then once you're in space, it's tapping into dark matter.
Oh.
In space. You don't generate it on Earth. You're not creating a machine that's a generator of dark matter. It's harnessed in space.
So it can only fly in space. It's like the Starship Enterprise shouldn't come down to Earth, like it's got its engines working.
But there's a two-part fuel. There's another fuel for, getting up out of the planetary envelope.
Oh, that is interesting.
This is all in Do Unto Earth. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that is so interesting because, I was focused on when I was early 90s and that when I discovered Bob Lazar and Area 51 and Element 115. How does that work?
Yes, Element 115. Yes.
Anything that has to do with anti-gravity, I get sucked into. Anything to do with warp drive, space travel. Because I'm a Star Trek sci-fi geek. I want a spaceship with warp drive. Come on.
Yeah, and you're not on base with any of those ideas. Those are along the lines. I mean, for sure.
I hope so. I hope we have the future of Star Trek. That's what I hope for.
It's coming.
I hope so, please. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for being on the show tonight. You both have been wonderful. Time flies by so fast doing this show. But I want you to get out any last information you want to get the audience where they can find your books, or for Carole, where if they want a reading from you, how they do that.
Well, the paxwisdom.com website, paxwisdom.com, is the place to look for the books, which are available on Amazon. And for myself, CaroleSereneBorgens.com. And yes, private readings are available. And over to you, Penelope.
Yes, we'd like to just encourage everyone to go to paxwisdom.com, paxwisdom.com. My website is PenelopeJeanHayes.com, but that's all linked through Pax Wisdom.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll definitely have to have you on again, especially if some of these scenes come to light that we talked about tonight. You never know.
Next time we'll do the video portion for you, Jason.
That'd be awesome. Yes. It's really easy. I can get you guys on here. It's really easy to use.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Yes.
All right. We definitely got to get you. We definitely got to get you back on in 2021. I'm getting hooked up for 2021, so I'll have to get you some dates. Well, thank you, ladies. You've been wonderful. That's it for the shows, guy. We're going to be back next Sunday with Afonso Calisano, if I got that right. He's the author of the book of Magical Mythical Unicorns. Yes, unicorns. We never got to talk about unicorns. Thank you, ladies. We never got to talk about unicorns on the show. It's going to be a first. I can't wait. Next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel. 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Check us in. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to us on YouTube and Facebook. And thanks to everybody who subscribes and is a Patreon. You help pay the bills. And a big thank you to all you in the chat room and everybody who shares this show out. Keep sharing out. Keep telling people about Paranormal Soup, a place where open minds come to discuss open conversations, spirituality, aliens, Bigfoot, whatever you want to talk about when it comes to the weird, unusual. This is your place for it. Paranormal Soup. All right, guys. See you next week. Have a great night.